The main character came across the entrance to the dungeon boss monster's room. This boss's room is not without reason called the Graveyard of Newbies. Of course, for newbies, this is a terrifying way to learn. A recoil module was discovered. Sentence. Salvation. The warrior said he was ready to do it and take down the boss. Here, his abilities were practically limitless. Hidden enemies, unexpected attack methods. Nothing could stop the player from achieving his goal. The hero took into account the slightest weakness of the enemy and used it to his advantage. The player's divine energy dominated the battlefield. The monster had no chance of winning. The player said he could see absolutely everything. That's why his strikes were always accurate and dealt maximum damage to the enemy. The hero was a game streamer obsessed with God. The player warned the viewers that he was already done. The viewers discussed his behavior in the cave. Could he really have defeated the boss so quickly? He was definitely not a beginner. A few months ago, Mr. Kim asked the young man if he often noticed that Mr. Kim made mistakes in contracts. The young man replied that Mr. Kim was very attentive. Kyungbok said that if Mr. Kim was ready to sign, he had a special pen for that purpose. Lee Kyungbok was a 28-year-old salesman facing difficulties. Mr. Kim said that Kyungbok should learn from the best. How could he stress out on such an important day? Mr. Kim picked up a glass of alcohol. He said that this was how business had been done for a long time. They should at least have a drink. Kyungbok said he would remember that. At the same time, the young man's head began to ache badly. Kyungbok caught himself thinking that this could be a sign, an ominous warning. For some time now, the young man had always been attentive to the moments when his head began to ache. Kyungbok thought that Mr. Kim had not been very lucky lately. Kyungbok thought that he wouldn't be able to do much here, but he could at least try. The young man suggested playing Go. Kim was surprised. Why such a sudden suggestion? Kyungbok began to throw white chips onto the board. Kim was surprised. What was the young man doing? This wasn't funny. Kyungbok said that signing the contract would bring great misfortune to the company. The tiles turned over to the other side meant bad luck. The young man got up from his seat and thought that he would have problems anyway. He said that he would not be able to entertain Mr. Kim properly. Kyungbok apologized and said he had to go. Kim shouted angrily, "Does this young man treat everyone with such disrespect?" This contract is cancelled, and Kyungbok must prepare for the consequences. The young man's nose started bleeding. He thought, here we go again. Kyungbok was born with divine energy. The child could sense the spirits and auras of other people. He knew it was best not to get close to evil spirits. His grandmother would scold him if she found out. His grandmother told him not to even think about becoming a shaman. He had received an amount of divine energy that the human body could not handle. In other words, Kyungbok could become possessed by a god. His grandmother said that if her grandson saw something strange again and felt bad, he shouldn't talk about it. He should just live a normal life. The young man's grandmother was a shaman and repeated these words constantly when her grandson was in pain. Kyungbok began to get used to this a little. Today, the young man's head was about to explode. Kyungbok didn't understand. Why so suddenly? Someone shouted that there had been an accident at the intersection. Kyungbok was distracted and looked in that direction. At the intersection, a passenger car had indeed crashed into a truck and caught fire. Kyungbok saw a prayer book with a protective cover lying on the road. The young man remembered that he had made one just like it with his grandmother. Kyungbok's parents had died prematurely. It was a very long day filled with pain for the boy. The other driver was drunk. The child was left an orphan. Kyungbok had to realize that the accident had also affected him. Why hadn't he paid attention to it? Kyungbok missed his parents very much. The young man felt a warm light enveloping his body. He didn't know where he was. The flowers around him were very bright. Ahead, on the other side of the river, Kyungbok saw his parents standing there. His parents turned around and walked away. Kyungbok shouted for them to wait and not leave. The young man begged them to take him with them. Someone put a hand on the young man's shoulder and asked if he was really leaving. The stranger asked Kyungbok if he wanted to cross to the other side. The man said he was willing to grant him any wish. Kyungbok asked the stranger who he was. The stranger said he was a deity. Kyungbok must not violate the laws of heaven. Kyungbok woke up and opened his eyes abruptly. The young man found himself lying on the floor of a room. In front of him was his grandmother. The old woman said that he was a worthless brat. Was he really going to cross the 3 rivers of death? When Kyungbok woke up, he was told that he had had a seizure. From that day on, his strength only grew. Although Kyungbok had grown accustomed to it, the backlash became much worse. It was unfair. Strength that he couldn't use because of the damage it caused. At a cafe, a friend asked if Kyungbok had been fired after a year of hard work. The young man confirmed this. His friend said it was unfair. The company would have gone bankrupt if it had signed that contract. He should have said something. Kyungbok said that in that case, they would think he was crazy. That way, he wouldn't achieve anything. Kyungbok asked his friend if he had been fired too. The answer was yes, without a moment's hesitation. His friend said angrily that he was the founder of the whole thing. 70% of that scoundrel's subscribers came thanks to him. That guy couldn't even play properly. Betrayal always infuriates. He couldn't be trusted. Our hero's friend was Choe Byung-hoon, a 28-year-old unemployed video editor. Byung-hoon said that since they had lost their jobs, why not stream together? Kyungbok replied that he loved games. Byung-hoon remembered that Kyungbok had even been invited to join a professional team in high school. Kyungbok thought those were the happiest moments of his life. Kyungbok forgot why he had stopped playing. Byung-hoon reminded him that his friend had felt sick while playing. Kyungbok remembered that was exactly how it had been. Byung-hoon asked if Kyungbok had ever tried a capsule. Kyungbok was surprised and asked what it was. Byung-hoon said that everyone was playing them now. You have to use your head, not your body, in a capsule. There won't be any problems. A capsule is an access device that immerses you in virtual reality. It's a great way to escape the daily grind. The spread of capsules was a turning point in the gaming world. Kyungbok said he needed to make some money, so he was willing to give it a try. The next day arrived. At the computer club, Kyungbok entered the capsule and asked his friend if he was doing everything right. Byung-hoon said that everything was fine and added that he would monitor the readings. Kyungbok said he was ready and fell asleep. The young man felt himself entering a different reality. The sensation was unlike anything he had ever experienced before. The body synchronization was complete. Kyungbok looked at himself and the default settings for his body. The system suggested that he undergo training and start with a physical test. He had to avoid obstacles and reach the goal. Kyungbok thought that these were difficult conditions for a basic test. Kyungbok was surprised. Why were there no obstacles? Was this some kind of bug? Byung-hoon, sitting in front of the monitor, didn't understand. Why wasn't Kyungbok running? Was he feeling unwell? Finally, Kyungbok began to move quickly around the room. Byung-hoon thought that wasn't bad for a first try. Byung-hoon noted that Kyungbok was running well, but he was also doing a great job of dodging all the traps that appeared randomly. Not a single mistake. Kyungbok seemed to know where the attack would come from. Kyungbok overcame all obstacles and reached the finish line. Byung-hoon shouted that it was amazing. Kyungbok took third place in the overall rankings. Was he a professional runner? The list of world records was updated. Third place in the world. Byung-hoon thought it couldn't be true. His instinct as an editor screamed, "This must be used somehow." After all, this guy is a genius. Byung-hoon thought they were guaranteed success. The test was repeated again. Kyungbok was surprised again. Where were the obstacles? Was this a bug? Kyungbok looked at the obstacle course and wondered why he could see traps. Kyungbok decided to try again and got ready to start. Reaching the finish line was once again no problem for our hero. Kyungbok could easily control every part of his body. The young man also noticed that his strength was increasing. But why didn't he feel any impact? Kyungbok decided to give it his all this time. Kyungbok thought, could the attack have come from both sides? There was a crack in the block. The young man worked out the best route and moved there. Kyungbok somehow found himself at the finish line. Was this the end of his training? Kyungbok asked how to exit the system. Byung-hoon said that Kyungbok had come in third place in the overall rankings. Was he a professional runner? Byung-hoon couldn't believe that his friend was in a capsule for the first time. There are even ranks in training. He should have recorded it all. It would have gotten millions of views. Kyungbok grabbed his head. His friend asked if he was okay. Maybe he should take him to the hospital. The protagonist said he was fine. Everything was normal. The young man wondered why there was no recoil in the capsule. Now our hero understood the sensations that came from releasing all his strength. In reality, it wasn't that vivid. Kyungbok continued to hold his head. The protagonist clenched his fist and said it was a lot of fun. Byung-hoon said goodbye, saying that his friend's skills hadn't rusted. If nothing hurt, then they had found something worthwhile. It would be a crime to waste such talent. In games, Kyungbok's strength is more apparent. Because of this, his performance deteriorates, so he gave up. However, things are different in the capsule. Could this be a way to bypass recoil? Our hero felt a sharp pain in his head. It was a bad feeling. What was it this time? Kyungbok looked ahead and saw a little girl slip on the steps. She was shorter than her parents, and no one would have been able to reach her in time. There was no time to think. Kyungbok lunged forward and caught the falling child. The girl was saved. The woman thanked Kyungbok for saving her daughter. Someone nearby managed to capture the moment on video. People speculated that it must have been some kind of athlete who made such a quick move. Kyungbok thought that he would be able to avoid recoil in the future. Our hero still couldn't come to terms with what had happened, even after going through all that. Kyungbok crouched down and couldn't move. The headache was unbearable. The young man decided not to delude himself. This pain would be with him for the rest of his life. His grandmother had said earlier that her grandson needed a healthy body and mind. Only then would he be able to cope with strength. There was no choice. Kyungbok decided that he had to at least start exercising. It was more like survival. Byung-hoon appeared nearby and said that he had finally found a friend. Why wasn't he answering his calls? Kyungbok wondered where Byung-hoon, who was always sleeping in the mornings, had come from. His friend said that it was impossible to sleep in a situation like this. The young man showed a video on his smartphone screen and asked what had happened. Kyungbok asked what he was interested in. Byung-hoon pointed to the man on the screen and asked if it was him. After all, he was wearing the same clothes he had worn yesterday. Kyungbok thought that recordings from city cameras often ended up on the internet. Could someone have hacked it? Byung-hoon admitted that the image on the screen was blurry, but anyone could tell it was Kyungbok. Our hero said that you couldn't see his face anyway. What difference did it make? Kyungbok said that the video had spread all over YouTube. Our hero thought that this time, thanks to the power that had always held him back, he had gained the support of the people. Kyungbok had already forgotten that feeling. The protagonist said he was going to take a risk, so Byung-hoon would become his accomplice. His friend said that crime was too much. What was he talking about? Kyungbok said he would put everything on the line for one last attempt and suggested doing a good game stream. The next day arrived. The young men met at Kyungbok's house. Our hero saw the capsule and asked when his friend had managed to buy it. Byung-hoon replied that it was an investment. It was time to test it out. All that remained was to choose which game to play. Byung-hoon said he had chosen something for beginners. A rainy night, a city hospital, 3 emergency patients, and no communication. Biocrisis, also known as BARC, is a masterpiece known for its complexity and zombie apocalypse world. The game was recently adapted for virtual reality, and interest in it has grown. The game is loading. The character is registered. The hero is lying on a hospital bed with an IV in his arm. The young man opened his eyes and looked around. He realized he was in a hospital ward. The player appreciated the unreal immersion in the game. Kyungbok even smells blood. The developers were able to add that too. The atmosphere in the ward was such that it was better not to make any noise. Information about the player was displayed above his head. During the stream, viewers wondered why a newcomer had chosen this particular game. Our hero had an ominous feeling. As expected, his power manifested itself. Kyungbok heard sounds outside that sounded like gunshots and decided to check the hallway. In the hallway, the protagonist saw an armed police officer. The officer heard a rustling sound and thought, "Is there someone behind me?" The police officer turned around sharply and, seeing the zombie, opened fire to kill it. The officer told the patient, who appeared to run away immediately. Our hero thought that the policeman was his ally. With a firearm, he would feel much safer. Kyungbok decided to ask the police officer if he had a spare gun. However, there were zombies in the way, which the patient decided to deal with. Kyungbok began to strike everything that came to hand. One of the spectators thought, "It doesn't matter how genius this guy is. BARC only reveals his true colors after the player dies. But what is this player doing? He's already destroyed 6 zombies." Kyungbok looked around and thought there were 3 left. Our hero continued to destroy the zombies in the hospital. "Let's deliver the final blow," said the young man. It was the 10th and last one. 10 zombies had been destroyed by him alone. Our hero thought that this was the end. His premonition had subsided. The audience couldn't believe it. Was he really a beginner? The hidden quest was completed. In the next task, the player had to save a police officer by destroying the zombies in 1 minute. The quest was completed in 35 seconds. The audience said they were witnessing the birth of a gaming genius. Our hero decided that the training had been easier than easy. The audience was amazed. Did he really think that was training? The police officer said he wanted to talk to this patient. Kyungbok asked if the officer was okay. The police officer thanked the young man for his help and handed him a gun. Along with the gun, the officer handed him a keycard to the police storage room in the basement. He said that the way there was a little confusing, but he would try to get the young man as far as possible. The audience was surprised. They had never seen anything like this before. This player had found a new, direct route. Kyungbok said that the hidden path led to the basement and told the officer that he was ready to follow him. The officer said that people had suddenly started losing consciousness and their bodies were rising up. There was complete chaos all around. The officer had a blood-stained handkerchief in his hand. He said that his time had come. Kyungbok was surprised. Why didn't the police officer say he had been bitten? The officer told the young man to point the gun at him and hold it firmly with both hands. The officer took a few steps back, raised his hands, and said that they were going to try it out. The young man was not to close his eyes and had to pull the trigger. The officer added that after that, the guy should go down to the emergency exit behind him. Our hero did not expect to receive a gun in this manner. A shot rang out. Kyungbok said he felt sorry for him. The audience said that the player should avenge the officer and destroy the villains. The protagonist decided to check the basement, as the police officer had recommended. Viewers advised him to change the settings and enable donations. Kyungbok followed the advice and thanked them for the first donation. The viewers said that this guy was no longer a beginner. Someone said it was time to stop bullying the streamer. Kyungbok said he was going to continue down the established route. Byung-hoon was happy that his friend had discovered a hidden route on his first broadcast. The video editor, sitting at his laptop, decided to cut a few clips. Everything was going great so far. Byung-hoon said that if they started doing this, they would make Kyungbok famous. In the streaming community, which people usually access from their phones, all you need to do is upload a short action video to attract attention. The guy went to the game community and uploaded a complete walkthrough of the hidden path. Byung-hoon told Kyungbok to be grateful that he had such a friend. Now they had to wait for the reaction. The reaction came quickly. There were many comments. Viewers discussed finding the hidden path. Byung-hoon said that the world won't leave geniuses alone. The game continued. Kyungbok was about to go straight to the basement, but the stairs were blocked. He would have to go through the first floor. A message came in saying that over 100 viewers were watching the stream. Our hero was surprised by the number and greeted everyone. Kyungbok thought that his place in the rankings was not just luck. One of the viewers asked if the player was ready to take on a mission. The mission was to reach the vault in the basement without taking any damage. Kyungbok thought that he had never completed a mission before, but he was ready to accept. The reward was 1 million. Byung-hoon had previously said that there was one thing new streamers should be wary of. That thing was trolls, viewers who challenge newcomers. For example, they give a task with a large reward and lure a newcomer into it. However, no one will watch a boring mission. Therefore, the difficulty increases significantly, and the new streamer may end up embarrassing themselves. Byung-hoon said that if a newcomer falls into the trap, they may end up having to quit streaming. Kyungbok said that in that case, it would be enough to simply complete the task. Byung-hoon replied that it's not that simple. After all, in that case, there would be a lot of new streamers. Kyungbok, upon hearing about the mission, thought, "Is it really that difficult?" Kyungbok accepted the challenge and said he would try to entertain the viewers. The system announced that audience assistance would be disabled for the duration of the mission. The player would be able to see the chat once it was over. Kyungbok entered the room on the first floor and saw many bodies lying on the floor. No one was moving. Our hero, with a gun in his hand, decided to make his way to the elevator. Suddenly, the bodies began to rise, and the protagonist realized what was happening. They were zombies. He understood the difficulty of the mission. Kyungbok said he was determined to finish quickly and fired a warning shot into the air. The audience was surprised. Why did he do that? The zombies rushed at our hero, and the young man responded with aimed shots. After a while, all the zombies were destroyed by shots to the head. The audience was amazed. Why was this guy so fast? All they saw were flashes. After firing another shot, our hero earned the Bio-Crisis achievement for 10 headshots in a row. The spectators were amazed. Had this guy never missed a shot? Was this really his first broadcast? Where had he been hiding all this time? Kyungbok felt something approaching him. He sensed chaotic, rapid movements. It was nothing like what had come before. Monster-like dogs appeared. The viewers said they were the famous zombie dogs called Barca. They weren't very fast, but they were impossible to hit with a gun. Kyungbok turned around and started running away from the dogs, which immediately gave chase. Our hero jumped high into the air and, while in midair, began to aim at the zombie dogs. The dogs tried to reach the man, but it was hopeless. After a while, the zombie dogs were destroyed. Our hero said that he loved animals and that he didn't like doing this. Someone in the audience suggested covering the dogs with a blanket. The remaining zombie was also destroyed with a well-aimed shot. The spectators were surprised. Was this really such a difficult mission? In the elevator shaft, our hero saw a rope and decided to climb down into the basement using it. The audience wondered why he didn't jump. Others had done so before. It all looked suspicious. Kyungbok saw a flashlight on the floor that could be useful. The audience's comments continued without interruption, but they regretted that the player couldn't see their messages. Kyungbok shone the lantern on the surrounding area, but nothing appeared. He directed the beam of light at the door. It was a police storage room. The mission was complete. The protagonist received a donation of 1 million. Our hero noticed that he could see the chat again. The viewers acknowledged that this player had fairly defeated the troll. Kyungbok thanked everyone who donated and helped the newbie. Kyungbok smiled and said he would wait for new interesting missions. The viewers were surprised. Did this guy want more? He was definitely not afraid of anything. Was anyone ready to challenge him? Kyungbok approached the door and said he would try to open it. The door was unlocked with a card he had received from the police officer. Our hero sensed something sinister on the other side of the door. Kyungbok grabbed the handle, but the door wouldn't open. Something on the other side was preventing it from opening. The young man thought it best not to make any noise. Our hero pushed the door and quietly slipped inside. The audience saw a huge, disgusting monster. It seemed to have reacted to the sound of the door opening. A zombie swarm was discovered. Everyone was surprised. What was wrong with this player? Had he already encountered the boss? Usually this monster is destroyed at the hospital exit. Kyungbok thought that the monster couldn't see him, but was reacting to the sound. The guy thought, if he tries to go further, the alarm will go off. He had to trick the monster somehow. Kyungbok aimed his pistol at the taut rope. The spectators wondered what the player was going to do. A shot rang out and the rope snapped. The monster rushed toward the sound. Kyungbok crouched down, and the creature rushed past him. The young man realized that the boss really did react to noise. Thanks to the card he had received from the police officer, the door was unlocked. The protagonist entered the next room. The young man thought it was difficult, but he made it. Kyungbok took a few steps forward, and the door behind him locked again. The monster remained on the other side. The player thought he had never been so happy to see a message about a lock. The magazine in the pistol was empty. He was out of bullets. He needed to find a new weapon. Kyungbok first thought it was a storage room. However, the room looked more like a locker room. Even the emergency lighting was working. The young man looked around carefully. It was empty. It seemed that someone had already taken everything useful. Our hero's attention was drawn to a covered locker. Kyungbok looked inside and saw that it was a police locker. There were weapons, special equipment, and uniforms. Kyungbok changed his clothes. In addition, our hero now had 2 pistols, 3 magazines with ammunition, and a flashlight. Kyungbok told the audience that he had been involved in sports since childhood. He needed it because of his strength. One of the viewers suggested a new mission: defeat the zombie swarm without using firearms. The reward was 1.5 million coins. Kyungbok, dressed as a police officer, returned to the boss's room. The monster was raging. The audience understood that this boss was difficult to defeat even with normal weapons. If you run out of bullets, it's better to start over. Our hero thought that without a firearm, he had only one option: to engage in hand-to-hand combat and defeat the boss that way. The audience wondered, what is this guy going to do? Doesn't he understand who he's dealing with? However, Kyungbok, despite everything, using only a police baton, engaged in hand-to-hand combat with the monster boss. Our hero told his viewers that this mission was much more interesting and thanked them for it. The system reminded them that the audience's help would be disabled during the mission. The player would be able to see the chat once it was over. Kyungbok said that this boss was like a zombie to him. Only there were a lot of these zombies, a whole swarm of them. Our hero accepted the mission, even though he didn't know the conditions for victory. The audience assumed that this newbie was in for hell. It was because of quests like this that newbies ran away. Our hero had only a thirst for victory, and he went for it no matter what. Kyungbok thought he should aim for the head of this zombie Roy. One of the 12 heads would be the main and most vulnerable one. After studying the monster more closely, the young man found the most important face. Now he knew where to direct his attack. The right decision was made, and the zombie swarm was destroyed. The task was completed. The mission was complete. Kyungbok looked at himself and thought he had ruined his new clothes. The audience was thrilled. The newbie had destroyed the boss. Was that really possible? This guy was incredibly lucky. Kyungbok said that with such an audience, streaming was much more fun. Our hero declared that he was always happy to take on new missions. Now it was time for him to go upstairs and figure out what to do next. Kyungbok went around the block staircase and went out into the first floor lobby. It's a good thing he already dealt with the monster boss. The young man left the room and went outside. The city was in ruins. Kyungbok said it was amazing. After our hero left the capsule, he met up with his partner. It was amazing. There were over 200 spectators. Byung-hoon showed him some interesting information on his laptop. It was about the night community from the platform where he streamed. Kyungbok made it to the top 5 on the main page. Byung-hoon said that the game community was going crazy. Subscribers were discussing the appearance of a new hidden path in Bark. Our hero realized where his hundreds of viewers had come from. Byung-hoon added that he hadn't been playing games all this time like some people. Byung-hoon showed his smartphone screen and said it was really impressive. The young man added that the game's developer had mentioned the newcomer. It turned out that they had been officially recognized. Kyungbok thought that he should come up with a proper nickname. Byung-hoon agreed and made a list of candidates for nicknames. Now, they had to choose one. Seeing one of the options, our hero said that this nickname would suit him. The player greeted the viewers and said that he was now Purple. Purple thanked everyone who came to the stream. The young man added that the chat was moving very fast, and he couldn't read every message. The viewers should be understanding about this. The streamer said that just yesterday he didn't have a name, but today he was greeting everyone officially. The young man declared, "Streamer Purple greets everyone." The streamer noted that the channel name includes the words "perfect game," so they will try not to make any mistakes. The game Biohazard was launched, and there were 10 seconds left before the start. Kyungbok said that he didn't pay attention because he ended the stream right away, but now everything feels different outside. A zombie crept up behind our hero. However, the young man reacted in time, grabbed the zombie by the arm, and threw him to the ground. Kyungbok heard someone behind him say that this guy was clearly not a zombie. He turned his head slightly and saw an armed girl standing behind him. She pointed a gun at him. The spectators were surprised. Had Sandra really appeared like this? She was supposed to save the player from the zombie, but Purple had simply thrown the zombie over his shoulder. The guy had no sense of the game. The young people looked into each other's eyes. Sandra said she had been warned that all the local police had been killed. The girl asked our hero his name. The young man introduced himself. Sandra also gave her name, without lowering her gun. She asked if the young man was injured. Had he been bitten by a zombie? Kyungbok raised his hands and said he was fine. Sandra could check for herself. Viewers noted that Sandra was smiling, definitely a good sign. The girl said that there was a camp with other survivors nearby. Kyungbok's strength would be useful to them. Sandra asked if the young man was ready to join them. The audience was surprised. Would he take another hidden path? Was the newcomer so perfect that Sandra trusted him right away? Kyungbok thought that he was faced with a choice about how the plot would unfold. Our hero replied that he had nowhere else to go, and accepted her offer. Sandra said she was glad to hear that, because even one person matters. The girl added that Kyungbok should follow her. A sound was heard nearby. Sandra said that they were back, and added that they needed to hide. People in protective suits and gas masks appeared. One of them asked his colleague if he was sure there were no more survivors here. An armed man kicked a zombie's body and said that they were lying everywhere. They needed to find survivors quickly for test samples. Sandra, hiding in a shelter, said that these people were very close. Kyungbok asked who they were. The girl replied that they had an emblem on their shoulders. They were mercenaries from Mercenary Farm. The protagonist was surprised. Were they really people from a pharmaceutical company? The girl noted that they needed people for experiments. They were obviously connected to this incident. Sandra said that fortunately, they had not been noticed. But why had the mercenaries come here? The girl said they should return to the camp immediately and warn the others. The young people arrived at the camp. The residents were delighted to see Sandra return, and that she was unharmed. Was it dangerous outside? Was she hurt? The girl said she had brought medicine that was in short supply. The people asked Sandra who the guy who came with her was. Was he really a police officer? Did that mean there were still police officers alive outside? Sandra replied that she would tell them all the details later. Right now, she needed to meet with Logan. Sandra entered the office. Logan was there, also wearing a police uniform. He was glad that the girl was okay and reported that everything was calm at the camp. Sandra said she wanted to introduce someone. Our hero entered the office. Logan was a little taken aback when he saw the police officer in front of him. Kyungbok thought, could this really be a real officer? Sandra said that Logan was wrong to claim that all the police officers had been killed. Logan didn't know what to do with this guest. However, he said aloud that he was glad to see a police officer. He added that the young man's face looked familiar. Perhaps they had met somewhere before. Our hero realized that this was not an officer, but an imposter. Kyungbok was faced with a question. Did he want to reveal Logan's identity? The audience hoped that the rookie would answer in the affirmative. Kyungbok wanted to choose an option that did not correspond to the main path. He looked at the police badge pinned to Logan's chest. Logan asked what the young man was doing. Our hero replied that something was bothering him. What bothered him most was the badge. Kyungbok added that their badges were different. He took a list out of his inside pocket and said that Sandra should check it herself rather than take his word for it. Kyungbok informed her that Logan Myers was listed as wanted on the list and had been convicted of fraud 8 times. Logan was frightened and told Sandra that it wasn't what she thought. The criminal reached for the gun on the table. Kyungbok was quicker and pressed the gun against Logan's chin. Our hero told him not to move. Sandra called Logan a shameless scoundrel and kicked him hard in the chest, sending him flying backward. The girl was aggressive, and the beating of the villain continued. Sandra couldn't calm down. How dare this scoundrel deceive them? She was ready to destroy the traitor herself. Our hero told the audience that it was best not to mess with this girl. The audience noted that the newcomer had even turned pale. The camp residents were also outraged. How dare Logan deceive them? He had been saying all along that he was trying to contact the rescue team, but it was a lie. He had turned the camp into his own personal kingdom. Sandra tied Logan to a chair and dragged him behind her. Logan claimed that he had a working radio that could help them escape. Sandra placed the chair with Logan on the edge of the roof and said that it was because of him that they were isolated. The people demanded justice and said that Logan should be punished to the full extent of the law. Sandra let go of the edge of the rope, and the chair with Logan fell from the roof. The girl restored justice. She added that Logan would become dog food. The zombie dogs were already waiting for their prey below. Kyungbok asked Sandra what her plans were. The girl asked our hero if he was really an officer. Sandra was confused and said she didn't know what to do. Logan, as it turned out, was a real crook and had betrayed them. Could he really have done that? Sandra didn't know what would happen to them. Food was running out. Would the police officer help them? It was too dangerous to stay there, especially after the Regenery farm had appeared. Sandra decided that they had to leave the city without asking anyone for help, on their own. The girl said she planned to find a safe place and wait for a signal on the police radio. That was her strategic mistake, and now the situation had turned out terribly. Kyungbok said that this was a game story. He thought that Sandra was an important character and that it would be better to treat her gently. Our hero approached the girl and said he would definitely help her. The girl thanked him and turned away, embarrassed. She added that they could be in danger if they didn't decide where to go. Sandra said it would be better to ask the military for help. They should do something if they get information about survivors. Kyungbok asked how they would do that. Sandra replied that there was no communication, so they would have to go themselves. The girl added that after the outbreak of zombies, the first and last safe zone had been created in the outlet. Kyungbok agreed that it was a good option. He suggested going through the subway tunnel, as it was less risky. The girl admitted that this guy was smarter than he seemed at first glance. Sandra pressed herself against her companion and thanked him. It was important to her that he was there. The young man looked at Sandra in surprise. The girl expressed her hope that these feelings were mutual. The next moment, Sandra pushed our hero onto the bed in the room. Kyungbok was surprised. Why so suddenly? Was this also part of the story? A moment later, Sandra was already on top of him, sitting on the lying Kyungbok. The young man told her not to rush, but it was too late. Sandra kissed him. Kyungbok wondered why he couldn't move. Was this really how it was supposed to be? He thought it was like a sex scene. Was there something like that in this game? Morning came. The young man thought long and hard about whether he should do it. It was good that everything happened in the dark. The guy was still lying in bed. Sandra was already dressed and sitting at the table with a cup of coffee in her hand. The girl said that Kyungbok was very cute when he slept. She got up, headed for the exit, and said she would wait for Kyungbok in the hall. Left alone, our hero checked the chat. Why did everyone write that his equipment was terrible? Viewers suggested he go hunting before moving on. The door to the next room opened, and a child entered the room with a toy in his hands. Kyungbok greeted the child and asked what had happened. He asked what the boy had brought. The child gave the young man a coin. The boy said he didn't know who the coin belonged to, so he decided to give it to the police officer. Kyungbok said the boy was a good kid. Viewers wrote that the actor should have received the coin according to Logan's script. The young man asked if it was a lottery coin. It seems there was a slot machine in the lobby. Byong-hoon, who was watching the stream, was surprised. Why was there a slot machine here? Random box machine is a slot-type gacha that appears in the early stages. The game is difficult, so the chances of winning are terrible. Byung-hoon remembered how he once tried spinning it about 30 times. It was a nightmare. All he got were healing potions. He shouted that this cruel machine was laughing at him. There are about 50 streamers in the gambling community. Among them, Anatomy became a legend. He got a golden shotgun after 40,000 attempts. It's definitely a ridiculous lottery, a waste of time. However, now Kyung-bok can play on this machine. Our hero wondered what the best weapon was. After all, it's a golden shotgun, right? He decided to choose it. Kyung-bok grabbed the lever of the slot machine and said he was starting. The protagonist experienced a strange sensation. He felt as if he had become more sensitive. However, the sensations kept changing. Soft silk, burning, pain. It all depended on the rotation of the machine. Our hero decided to choose the most pleasant sensation. Kyung-bok thought that the time had come and let go of the lever. The machine showed 3 sevens. The prize appeared on the screen. The audience decided that it would be a healing potion. However, what was in the box surprised everyone. The audience said that another legend had been born. Our hero was holding a golden shotgun in his hands. Could this have happened on the first try? He won it right on the air. The protagonist received a legendary item, a golden shotgun. It reduces recoil and has semi-automatic firing. Kyung-bok said that the shotgun was even better than he had imagined. The young man said it was time to go to the subway and have some fun. Sandra was already waiting for him in the lobby. On their way to the subway, the young people encountered several monsters. Kyung-bok said that they wouldn't need the golden shotgun this time. Pistols would suffice. The monsters were attacked. Thanks to Sandra's support, the mission was completed, and Arachne was defeated. The spectators said that these guys were scarier than zombies. How did he manage without a shotgun? The young people continued on their way to their destination. After a while, Kyung-bok said they had arrived. In front of them stood a huge building with the word outlet written on it. He was surprised. Shouldn't this place be under military control? Why did their uniforms have Regenry Farm written on them? Why were these mercenaries here? Viewers speculated that the entire plot had taken a hidden turn. After our hero got out of the capsule, his friend said that they needed to upload everything to the channel immediately. Kyung-bok was surprised. Not even a day had passed, and Byung-hoon had already posted all the clips. Byung-hoon admitted that there were many stream viewers, but clips were watched more often. Kyung-bok was the first to find the hidden path, but someone else could record and upload the walkthrough to YouTube. In that case, it would be a serious loss. Our hero realized that being first was an impressive achievement. Viewers noted that Purple now has his own YouTube channel. Those who haven't seen the stream can go to his channel and watch the recording. Sometimes internet users are faster than the speed of light. The YouTube channel was instantly flooded with people. The most popular video was the cutscene with Sandra. Rumors spread, and comments flooded in from foreigners. The most popular video among foreigners was getting the golden shotgun. The well-known Anatomy commented on the video, which brought even more popularity. The channel already had over 100,000 subscribers. Is such rapid growth even possible? The storm that had begun to brew started to get out of control. Purple thanked his subscribers for their donations. He couldn't believe he had so many fans. Thanks to their support, he would achieve a lot. The young man said he had another announcement. Starting today, a chat management bot would be activated. Freedom of speech is good, but it doesn't hurt to prevent certain problems. According to the rules, 3 complaints and a subscriber would be banned. Now everyone should keep that in mind. Purple said he was ready to start and began to immerse himself in the game. Mercenaries were still combing the area in search of people. Kyung-bok suggested that Regenry Farm was deceiving the government. Sandra was surprised. Did they live off food? Was there another way? The girl, peeking out from behind cover, said they had to understand what was going on. The protagonist, with pistols in his hands, said he would have to go through them. Sandra noted that firearms should not be used. If they made noise, they would be in trouble. She said she would deal with them quietly herself. Army knives appeared in her hands. The mercenaries saw a drink can roll out from behind the corner of the building. One of the armed men said that the area was under the jurisdiction of the 5th Squad, and unauthorized entry was prohibited. Sandra suddenly jumped out from around the corner and deactivated the mercenaries. She dragged the defeated enemies to the wall and said that this was how she overcame difficulties. 3 more mercenaries appeared ahead in the square. Sandra, daggers in hand, headed toward them. One of the mercenaries saw the unidentified person and tried to send a message to the central pavilion via radio. Kyung-bok crept up behind the mercenary and grabbed him by the head. He asked where the man had gotten the military knife. Our hero moved very quickly and did not allow the villain to open fire or raise the alarm. Kyungbok decided not to make any noise and to act like Sandra. With a dagger in his hand, he deactivated the armed mercenaries. Sandra provided support and threw a knife at the enemy who was about to attack Kyungbok from behind. The enemy was neutralized. Kyungbok looked back and saw the fallen enemy. He realized that it was Sandra's doing. The young man looked at the girl and thanked her with a nod. The young people dealt with the mercenaries and continued on their way. A drone circled above them. The drone descended lower and asked if they were from the Foxtown Police Department. Kyungbok thought it would be best to pretend to be police officers. He asked aloud what was going on. Those watching through the drone replied that Foxtown was under quarantine. Was the officer really unaware of this? Kyungbok replied that there were survivors left in the city, so they were conducting a rescue operation. The drone reported that the infected area was not under their control. Control had been handed over to Regenery Farm. Sandra angrily claimed that the company was kidnapping survivors to use them as test subjects. The drone responded that this was a lie. They were informed that all the city's residents were infected and that the military was doing everything possible to contain the situation. Sandra asked if they were really going to let the infected die. The drone reported that areas with high infection rates were under quarantine and that a vaccine was already being developed by Regenery Farm. Sandra said that it was all a hoax and that a pharmaceutical corporation was behind it. The drone asked if there was any proof. Given the circumstances, these people couldn't be trusted. They also couldn't be allowed to enter the infected zone. Sandra asked if the military really wanted them to just leave and die. Our hero received a new assignment, to expose Regenery Farm's illegal activities. Sandra was upset. They had returned empty-handed. What would she tell the others? Kyungbok said that the girl had done everything she could. They had to try to find another way. The girl came up with an idea and said they needed to hurry. When the young people returned to the camp, there was no one there. Inside the building, Sandra found a stuffed toy that belonged to a child. Nearby, the girl discovered the bodies of her fallen comrades. Sandra burst into tears and repeated that this should not have happened. The audience said it was terrible. There were some noises, and the young people looked in that direction. The audience hoped that at least someone had survived. Kyungbok said he could sense a negative aura. It wasn't a survivor. It was someone more dangerous than any monster. The audience saw a Hulk in the back of the room. It looked like a spectacular fight was about to begin. This giant was the final boss from the original story. He had no weaknesses and regenerated quickly. The monster asked if they liked his gift. The audience wondered, is he intelligent? Sandra asked in fear. Is that Logan? The audience wondered where he had come from. The monster wondered why the two were looking at him like that. Was something wrong? The monster said that in exchange for redemption, he had given them the stones that people cherished so much. But these insignificant creatures dared to oppose him, so he had to destroy them. The giant and Logan merged, creating a giant Logan. Kyungbok said that this was too much. Even though it was just a game, hadn't this monster crossed all boundaries? Logan said he could imagine how they were writhing in pain and wanted to kill them quickly, like little bugs. The villain began to destroy everything around him. Sandra screamed that the ceiling was collapsing and it was too dangerous to stay there. Kyungbok knew that this boss was quite cruel. Mesty's squad proposed a joint mission to destroy Logan by any means necessary. Purple did not respond to the challenge. During this time, the threat to the cities only grew. The young man thanked the audience for their support. Our hero noted that he had wanted to deal with this villain for a long time. The young man corrected himself and said that this giant Logan deserved revenge. Purple accepted the assignment. Sandra, having moved to a safe place, said that even the truth had collapsed. Everything here was covered with stones, and they couldn't get out now. The girl saw that the wounds on the monster's body were healing. Logan was regenerating. The giant laughed and said that this form of existence was simply incredible. He promised to save Sandra for dessert. The girl should wait for him. Kyungbok held a dagger and a shotgun in his hands, but said that weapons would most likely be useless against this giant. The audience admired the golden shotgun in the hero's hands. Without letting go of his weapons, our hero rushed at the monster and said that his actions would be his answer. The audience was surprised when they saw Purple stab the monster's muscles with a knife. It seemed that he was aiming for the tendons, as they are the giant's weak spot. However, does this make sense if the monster has rapid regeneration? Kyungbok thought that the monster's blood would stop flowing quickly, but that it would take longer to fully recover. Our hero decided to test how long Logan could hold out. The young man thought that the giant Logan was a fusion with a human, and the tendon area connecting the muscles was indeed his weak spot. The audience gave our hero advice on how to best attack the monster. Logan was recovering, but his opponent was striking him faster than he could regenerate. Kyung-bok thought he was right. Bullets prevent tendons from healing. The monster told the man not to get cocky. Without a gun, he was nothing. The real fight was just beginning. The villain lunged at the hero. Kyung-bok continued to dodge the monster's attacks, while not forgetting to counterattack with shots and knife strikes. Logan couldn't recover in time. Having lost a lot of strength, he stopped and fell to his knees. Kyung-bok said he wanted to see if the monster could die from excessive blood loss. The young man aimed the golden shotgun at his opponent. A shot rang out. Shots followed one after another. The cartridge cases fell like raindrops. The number of holes in the monster's body increased. The bullets got stuck and remained inside. Logan was furious. He couldn't recover in time. Someone in the audience said that Purple could now earn a living as a taxidermist. The monster screamed that it couldn't end like this. The spectators noticed that Logan had entered the second phase. The monster was preparing to deliver a critical blow. Under the impact of the shockwave, the hero was thrown far back, but he managed to fire a few more decisive shots at the monster. The mission was accomplished. The giant Logan was defeated. Purple thanked the audience for their support. He said that it was thanks to them that he was able to defeat the monster. The audience agreed that it was an incredible battle. Everything around them began to collapse. Kyung-bok remembered Sandra and rushed to her. The girl was sitting on the floor, with rocks falling around her. Our hero rushed to Sandra and managed to carry her to safety. Kyung-bok held the girl and helped her get up and out of the half-destroyed building. The hero's hand was bleeding. The protagonist thought that there was something behind the hotel building. Since Logan had conspired with Reganry Farm, they had probably tracked the monster. Sandra's gaze clouded over. Kyung-bok asked the girl what was wrong. Sandra pushed the young man away and asked who he was. Kyung-bok was surprised by her question. What happened? The girl pointed to the wound on his arm. Sandra asked what kind of wound it was. The audience was surprised. Why was it healing so quickly? Why did he have such regeneration abilities? Sandra asked if Kyung-bok was the same kind of monster as Logan. The girl asked, "Is Kyung-bok even human?" Purple thought that maybe this player really wasn't human. It seemed like content that wasn't in the main storyline. The hero hadn't even considered that the protagonist might not be human. Sandra pointed the gun at the young man and said he had to explain himself immediately. The hero received a new task in which he had to convince Sandra. Kyung-bok said he was ready to tell the girl everything he knew and explain without lying. The guy noted that he himself didn't know who he was. The only thing he was sure of was that he felt the same way Sandra did. Kyung-bok approached the girl and pointed the gun she was holding at his head. The audience was shocked. Sandra was confused and even apologized. The girl lowered the gun. The protagonist grabbed her by the neck and pulled her toward him. Our hero asked the girl to trust him one more time. Tears welled up in Sandra's eyes. The system reported that the hero had successfully convinced Sandra. The next chapter began. The audience was surprised. Was it really that simple? The hero was given a choice: escape with Sandra to Foxtown or eliminate Reganry Farm. The path was chosen. Distrust does not disappear so quickly. Kyung-bok helped the girl and bandaged her wounded leg. To continue their journey together, they would have to overcome what had happened. The mistrust grew even stronger because of one detail. The young man still had the guns in his hands. The reason they must survive this terrible reality is to take down the pharmaceutical company Reganry Farm. It must pay for all its crimes. Our heroes set off on their bikes to the location of their next mission. The audience wanted them to make the villains regret what they had done. The time for revenge had come. It was high time to tear them to pieces. Helicopters were circling around the building where the pharmaceutical company's headquarters were located. The girls said that they had eyes and ears everywhere. Kyung-bok noted that even the entrance to the building was well guarded. A face-to-face encounter with them did not bode well. Sandra noticed that Purple's radio on his belt had become active. A signal appeared. A woman's voice asked if anyone could hear her. "Do you read me?" Our hero asked who was on the line. The woman said it was a relief to be heard. She was worried and didn't think she would be able to contact anyone. She introduced herself as Jessica, a research assistant at Reganry Farm. She asked if she was speaking to a police officer. Sandra asked what information Jessica had. Jessica said she was going to expose her company. Jessica added that she had been gathering evidence of their crimes and documenting everything carefully. Although the police had lost their power, she continued to send radio signals. She needed help. Jessica still believed that the police could save her. Purple asked what kind of help she needed. Jessica wanted to pass the data on to the military, but she couldn't do it alone. The young man asked how he could get this top-secret information. Purple added that he couldn't get inside the building. Jessica said that the building was connected to the sewer system. The young man thought that was to be expected. The girl added that the place was hidden from outsiders. There would be no one there except special personnel. Will our hero follow his mysterious companion into the building? Purple must make a choice. The audience heard the clapping that always preceded the end of the broadcast. Purple shouldn't have done that to them. The game was paused, movement restricted. Kyungbok said that today had been fun, and that there had been many shocking events. The young man added that the vote would be posted on the main page of his channel. He thanked the viewers for participating and suggested they meet again on the next stream. Viewers noted that it was a typical ending. Why does Purple abandon them like that? However, today's stream was incredibly cool. Purple ended the live broadcast. Deltanya, the main gaming streamer, greeted his kittens. He asked if it was too hot outside today. The video from the donations started loading. The streamer assumed that it wasn't banned content. Otherwise, he would have condemned it in advance. But Sandra was also in the uploaded video. The streamer said that she was very cool and that he wanted to scream when he saw her. In the video, Sandra was kissing a police officer and hugging him. Deltanya was surprised. When did Sandra become like this? What really happened? The streamer looked at the young man who was with Sandra and thought that this guy had the best results of anyone he had ever seen. He decided to check YouTube. Incognito mode was enabled. Deltanya watched the video featuring this hero closely. It was incredible. The streamer was particularly impressed by the video preview. The streamer said that this newcomer would still be an easy target for cyberbullies. That's what happens to everyone who rises to the top quickly. Would he be able to handle it? Kyungbok approached Byung-hoon and asked in surprise if he could really sleep at this hour. What was going on so early in the morning? His tired friend replied that he needed more coffee. Byung-hoon drank the refreshing beverage, came to his senses, and said he would show him why. He pointed to the laptop screen. Kyungbok looked closely and said, "That's our video." Byung-hoon said that cyber saboteurs were hunting them. Cyber vandals are people who quickly spread information on the internet. They are also content creators who increase views using clips. This is done not only by stealing other people's content, but also by creating clickbait videos with rumors. Byung-hoon said that they should have gotten permission and discussed the details first. There are rules after all. A compromise must be found. Kyungbok asked if they could report the cyberbullies. Byung-hoon replied that that was exactly what he wanted to do. The copyright for game videos belongs to the developers, so it will be difficult to do anything. Byung-hoon said that someone had decided to contact them. Kyungbok asked who he was talking about. His friend replied that this was the first time something like this had happened in the streaming community. An official offer had been made by the game's developers. Our hero greeted the viewers. Someone noted his trademark smile. Purple said he had an important announcement to make today. The young man announced that Gap would be sponsoring the stream. Purple, as always, thanked the viewers for their support and interest. He said that before starting the game, he wanted to explain something. A few days ago, a business meeting was held at a Gap cafe. One of the young people, although he worked in the sales department, found it a little strange to negotiate details at such a meeting. The girl said that their first key request was multilingual subtitles for all game videos. The young man agreed that this was beneficial for everyone. Foreign viewers would definitely appreciate it. The woman said that the next question was about explaining Easter eggs. They would like the Easter eggs to be revealed as the game progresses. She added that the final gameplay was significantly different from what was in the project. For example, Giant Logan was not supposed to die. During the game, the player was supposed to dodge Logan's attacks and escape by using the collapse of the building to their advantage. Some bosses were designed with the expectation that players would be able to survive by dodging attacks and avoiding direct combat with them. The possibility of defeating them was considered, but according to the results, the probability of players discovering the secret route is 5%. The chance of defeating such bosses is less than 1%, which means it is practically impossible. Byung-hoon said that the main character managed to do it after all. Kyungbok remarked that it wasn't that difficult. There's no need to overestimate him. The girl said that since there are hidden runes like this, they ask for details to be explained during live streams to prevent any misunderstandings. As for the walkthrough, it was a suggested strategy. Purple said that in the end, following hidden runes is not the only strategy for completing the game. This happens extremely rarely. If you want to complete the game, you have to defeat the bosses. It was also noted that his walkthrough shortened some segments of the game. He added that now you can enjoy the game however you want. The young man added that if viewers try it themselves, they will see that it is not that difficult. The viewers couldn't believe that it was really that easy. Was Purple telling the truth? Would they have to be reborn to find out? Purple added that he had another message. Byung-hoon said during the negotiations that it sounded quite tempting and the terms were attractive, with no unusual conditions in the contract. What did Kyungbok think about this? Kyungbok thought that there was nothing wrong with it, and that it wasn't worth thinking about for too long. If there were any problems, they would have been obvious right away. Still, something was holding our hero back from making a final decision. Kyungbok asked if he could request one more condition. The company representatives replied that they were willing to discuss it. The girl said they would add this condition as a special offer. Purple told viewers that he did not approve of the use of excerpts from his streams in other people's videos. From now on, all of his videos would be classified as supported by the developers. Unauthorized use of his video material would result in a fine, so viewers should be careful. It could hurt their wallet and reputation. With that, the streamer's speech was over. Purple said he was starting the game. The young man was curious to see the results of the poll that had been launched last time. Sandra's fans made up 89% of the vote. This means that the heroes will go and deal with Reganry Farm. Our heroes said that this way, they would be able to obtain evidence of illegal activity. This decision will affect the outcome of the game. Sandra said that Jessica is also an employee of Reganry Farm. Maybe it's a trap. Purple asked. Then why did Jessica contact them via police radio? He doesn't trust her but wants to find out more. Our hero said that Jessica might be connected to the company somehow. If they contact her, they'll find out more. Sandra said she agreed and trusted Purple in his decision. Our heroes began to make their way to the building through the sewer system. Viewers assumed that the heroes would not be able to get through unnoticed. The young man admitted that the smell from the sewer wasn't very strong, but it was still unpleasant. The young people became alert. They heard a suspicious noise. What could it be? Purple said that there was something there. The young man said that something was coming toward them, and that they needed to run to the left. Viewers noted that it was a quick decision. Something was chasing our heroes. Only red glowing dots were visible in the darkness. The distance was closing, and the young people saw predatory animals approaching. What kind of monsters were they? Were they rats? Purple opened fire with his pistols. The young man was surprised. Had the game's difficulty changed? The audience thought if the game makes you feel such emotions, then it must have been well designed. Purple continued shooting, and the bullets hit their targets. Many rats were destroyed, but it wasn't over yet. These animals were everywhere. Someone in the audience said that it wasn't worth killing the rats, that they should just run away from them. Our hero had no intention of running away. He said that in that case, the enemies should have been made stronger. Red eyes in the darkness, writhing shadows, quick footsteps, a nauseating stench. All of this could be felt thanks to heightened senses. The spectators assumed that this player would be able to cope and destroy all the rats. In addition to the 5 basic senses, there is a 6th sense that scans everything around you. Viewers assumed that the firing rate had increased, and that this player had instant reactions. The next moment, the rats turned and rushed towards Sandra. Purple realized that they had chosen a different target. Our hero rushed to the girl's aid. However, in the original storyline, Sandra died. Purple stood between the girl and the rats and, taking a dagger in one hand, continued to destroy them. Viewers noted that Sandra almost died. Purple was very fast. The girl was frightened. She had a scratch on her arm. How could this have happened? Viewers suggested that one of the rats had gotten close to Sandra. One of the spectators suggested that this would not affect the course of the game. The young man thought that in that case, Sandra would have been infected anyway. The girl suggested that her companions split up. A new task appeared: heal Sandra and convince her to join the hero. Purple said that Reganry Farm would help them and suggested they continue working together. Sandra joined our hero. Purple told the viewers that even though the stream was sponsored, he would still do things his own way. The young man had a dagger in his hands again. Our heroes reached the area Jessica had mentioned. Now they had to climb up and get out of the sewer. Sandra said she would go first. She had nothing to fear now. Sandra said that as soon as her footsteps faded, the others could follow her. After a while, the young man followed her up the stairs. Purple climbed out of the open sewer hatch onto the surface. The audience assumed that it was a trap. Perhaps Jessica had already been captured. Purple saw Sandra knock the girl down, press her knee on her, and put a gun to the back of her head. Sandra asked what Jessica would say about the rat. After all, those rats had attacked them. Jessica had to surrender or face the consequences. Jessica replied that she didn't understand what zombie rats they were talking about. Sandra decided that Jessica was mocking them. After all, they had almost died in the sewers. Viewers noted that this behavior was typical of Sandra. Jessica said she had all the results of the failed experiments. If the radio conversation was fake, why would she have come here? Jessica suggested that the rats might have mutated from improperly disposed of laboratory waste that they had eaten. She didn't know there were such monsters in the sewers. Sandra let Jessica go. It seemed that Jessica couldn't hurt them. Jessica thanked them for their trust. With tears in her eyes, Jessica said that they could have just asked her nicely from the start. Why so much aggression? Purple felt that being here was even more unpleasant than being in the location with Logan. Our hero sensed a huge amount of negative energy in the room. Purple assumed that this was because test subjects were being destroyed here. The girl said she wanted to introduce herself despite the awkward start. Her name was Jessica, and she was a researcher at Reganry Farm. Sandra replied that the situation was urgent, so without going into unnecessary details, she was interested in the documents. Jessica handed over a flash drive and said that it contained documents from an informant that needed to be handed over. The files contained information about illegal experiments conducted by the pharmaceutical company, as well as building layouts and operating plans. There was information about experiments involving zombies. Jessica said that the documents had to be taken to the director's office on the top floor. That was the only way to contact anyone outside. Sandra asked why Jessica couldn't handle it herself. Jessica asked her to listen to her first. The entire building is guarded by armed men around the clock. The director's office is the most heavily guarded room. It's impossible to get in there just like that. Sandra asked why Jessica was so sure they could do it. The girl replied that she could get into the control room and temporarily disable the security system. She had an idea how to deal with the mercenaries. She would keep in touch via the radio. Jessica said that to get to the top floor, they had to take a separate staircase, where there was a hidden passageway leading to the top floor. Our hero pulled out a knife. Jessica was frightened and asked what the policeman was going to do. Purple said he had 2 questions for the girl and showed her his hand. Jessica said that the wound was healing quickly, but she had never seen such a bright light. When did this start happening? Could a human really regenerate that quickly? Had he taken any restorative medication? Maybe he had been bitten by a zombie? Sandra told Jessica not to get so close to the police officer. Jessica waved her hand and said she was talking. Purple asked Sandra not to get worked up. Everything was fine. Jessica told the cop to freeze. The girl asked what was wrong with the young man's memory. Were his memories vague? Purple confirmed that he had no memory of what happened before he woke up. How did Jessica know that? Jessica said she had finally found him and immediately apologized. When she was absorbed in something, she didn't notice what was going on around her. The young man asked Jessica what she knew about it and what had been done to him. Jessica replied that it was about elixir, a treatment method being researched by Reganry Farm. This treatment strengthens the body and maximizes regeneration. It can cure any injury and even grant eternal life. The pharmaceutical company believes that this is the ideal means of creating the perfect human being. Jessica said that the young man had been the subject of clinical trials for elixir, but he was experiencing side effects. But even so, he should be happy. The situation has changed dramatically. Jessica said they needed to go up to the top floor to the research and development lab. Thanks to this guy, they would be able to improve the elixir and fix everything, which meant that the crisis could be ended right now. Sandra said she wouldn't let this man become part of a crazy experiment. She told Purple not to get involved with this girl. Their job was to transfer the data. Jessica said that everything happening in the world would stop as soon as the elixir was developed. After all, it was the vaccine. Suddenly, the alarm went off. An emergency had been declared. The test subject had escaped, and all personnel in the building had to evacuate immediately. The research wing was quarantined. Purple said he had a bad feeling about this. Overlord has escaped. How could this happen? Our hero said that this monster looks very cool. Could it be some kind of popular character? Information about a hidden quest has appeared. You must defeat Overlord. Purple saw that the reward for completing this task would be unlocking a hidden ending. Jessica urged the officer to trust her. It's better to escape with the vaccine than to file a report. Sandra said that the escaped test subject came here. Is this part of Jessica's plan? Purple said that they had already gone too far, and it would be foolish not to take advantage of this opportunity. Purple suggested that the girls use a secret passage to get to the surface, where they would be safe. Sandra said she wouldn't leave him alone. She asked him to listen to her. It was the best possible solution. Purple said she would deal with the monster and come back, and then they would decide what to do next. The protagonist began to carry out the hidden task. Purple declared that it was time to get the hidden final reward. Before the capsules appeared in the console version of Biohazard, there was a character who was the final boss for many generations of the game. This boss was Overlord. Overlord is a perfect biological weapon created through countless experiments. He is the main villain who, according to the story, opposes the main character, Ryan Kim. He is also the king of zombies. Throughout the series, he appears in various forms, earning the respect of experienced players and becoming a historically popular boss. Viewers decided that this was the final boss after the upgrade, the return of the Overlord. Previous bosses didn't even come close to him. Purple entered the fray. Viewers recognized that this boss's power was growing, and that it would be impossible to defeat him with just a pistol. A huge sword appeared in the Overlord's hand, which he swung through the air, trying to reach his opponent. However, our hero's reaction was lightning fast. The audience hoped that Purple would be able to win. The policeman took out his pistol and fired a targeted shot, hitting his opponent in the head. The bullet went right through. However, this did not help the protagonist. Despite the fact that he was facing a zombie, its head regenerated very quickly. The Overlord was very fast, so Purple was forced to dodge his opponent's attacks all the time. This left him with little room to maneuver. It was necessary to find the Overlord's weak spot. The audience said that the final boss wouldn't be called that if he could be defeated with a pistol and a shotgun. Purple thought that this time his opponent had figured out the bullet's trajectory and let it pass through. It was incredible. He used his transformation in such a way. This monster was going to be a tough nut to crack. Our hero decided that the only way to defeat this monster was to exploit its weak points. The problem was that the weak spot was hidden under the straps. To deal with the Overlord, he needed a special item. The monster reached forward and was about to grab his annoying opponent. The audience noted that the main character's physical abilities were impressive, but his mind was even better. Our hero jumped aside and thought that he had to deal with the straps on the monster's body first. Purple continued to dodge his opponent's attacks. The audience was puzzled. How would he deal with the straps? He needed another weapon. The protagonist chose his target and prepared to fire. A targeted shot from the pistol was fired at the same spot. The Overlord was unharmed, but the target was hit. The audience noted that Purple had hit the monster's weak spot. He had broken the buckle holding the belt on its shoulder. The audience emphasized that it was a well-aimed shot. The belts fell to the monster's feet, exposing its most vulnerable spot. Purple said that there was no need for items to increase speed or damage. This boss wasn't that tough. Purple fired several shots from his pistol at the part of the monster's chest that was exposed after the strap fell off. Our hero thought that this monster was only getting stronger, and that it was impossible to destroy it. Was the second phase beginning? Strange transformations began, changing the monster's appearance. The Overlord rose to his feet with newfound strength, now much larger in size. Our hero thought that he was in for a rough time, but continued firing his shotgun. The spectators couldn't understand how the hero would be able to defeat this boss. Bullets weren't working on him. Our hero continued to dodge his opponent's attacks, and fire continuously at his weak spot. Purple thought he had shot his opponent in the arm, but the damage didn't register. He needed to aim more carefully at the chest. The young man responded to the viewers' comments in the chat, saying that in this case, there was no point in farming items. Purple moved closer and fired a shot at the Overlord's chest at point-blank range. The Overlord grabbed his chest, leaned forward, but remained standing. The viewers noted that this monster was too strong. The protagonist remarked that if the spectators watched his actions closely, they would understand why he wasn't going to farm items. Our hero ran to the side, dodging the monster's attack, but continued to fire aimed shots at the Overlord's body. The young man thought that the pistol was meant to buy time. His goal was higher. Jessica talked about the animals that were used in the experiments. It was strange that there were no processing devices here. If he was right, it was a liquid that washed away and restored the monster. It had to be used. Our hero asked his modified opponent, "Isn't it harder to wield a hook than a hand now? So we just have to hold on." Purple continued to shoot. After another bullet hit his chest, the Overlord couldn't stay on his feet and stumbled backward. Our hero approached the monster sitting on the ground and aimed his shotgun at him. Purple fired another shot. The battle was taking place in the very place where the pharmaceutical company disposed of the unfortunate consequences of its experiments. The reason there were no special devices here was that they were disposed of after dissolution. A solution dripped onto the Overlord, dissolving his body. Our hero acted wisely. Looking at the monster, the young man thought that it was still regenerating. I wonder how long it can hold out. The Overlord tried to get up with his last ounce of strength. This action was most likely instinctive. Purple fired another shot at point-blank range. The bullet hit a vulnerable spot. The hidden quest was completed, and the Overlord was defeated. As a result, the hidden ending was unlocked. The audience acknowledged that the bio-crisis had been defeated. The player had surpassed himself. Purple said that it didn't matter now whether the experiment was illegal or not. Our hero decided to go through the closed passage and see the game's ending. The young man reached the top floor, where there was a research and development room. Did they really use the entire floor? Jessica rushed to the officer, wrapped her arms around him, and said she was very scared. Purple asked where Sandra was and what had happened to Jessica's appearance. Jessica said that Sandra had suddenly lost her mind, attacked her, and gone upstairs. Our hero had a bad feeling. This wasn't going to end well, just like in the control room. Purple asked what it all meant. Jessica said that Sandra had already turned into a zombie. The young man didn't believe her and said he had to see it with his own eyes. Jessica wondered why the officer didn't believe her. She herself had seen the transformation happen so suddenly for the first time. The virus had taken effect slowly, so there had been no certainty from the start. But that wound was definitely from a zombie bite. Our hero was surprised. Could Sandra really have been infected by a zombie rat bite? Jessica noticed that there was a way out. If the young man became part of the experiment, they would create an elixir and be able to save Sandra. Jessica asked the young man to think carefully. Our hero had to make a choice. Would he agree to the experiment? Purple didn't know if Jessica was telling the truth, so it was very difficult for them to make a decision. However, compared to last time, neither option seemed particularly sinister. In any case, a vaccine was needed to save Sandra. Our hero agreed to take part in the experiment. Jessica said that the young man had made the right decision. There was a hidden passage in the wall, which Jessica unlocked. The chapter, Elixir, is complete. The game was paused. All actions and movements stopped. The young man thought that this chapter had ended very quickly. Our hero felt that he needed to do things his own way. He was simply confused, so he decided to put everything on hold. The audience was used to leaving at the end of the chapter, but today Purple wants to go all the way. He doesn't want to disappoint anyone who stayed with him at such a late hour. The protagonist wanted to share the fun and part on a happy note, wanting to experience that feeling again. Kyungbok said it would be even more fun that way. However, Byung-hoon is alone in his duties as editor and manager. Maybe they should do it as usual? Byung-hoon asked in the chat if Kyungbok could continue this time. He doesn't want to wait for the hidden ending. He wants everything to happen right now. Our hero laughed, surprised that this guy was his friend. Viewers noted that it was a killer's smile. Our hero understood that in any case, the next chapter would be the last. He said that instead of dragging it out, they could finish watching the ending and go rest. Purple said he was always grateful for the views and donations. The young man announced that the next chapter would be The Hidden Path. Jessica told the police officer to follow her. The young people arrived at a secret laboratory. Everything here was marked top secret. Large containers filled with liquids held secret samples that formed the basis of Reganry Farm. The antagonist looked tense and even frightened. Jessica said that these were the experiments that had partial genetic compatibility, leading to incomplete longevity. The girl added that the elixir was only effective for those with absolute genetic compatibility. For example, Logan and the Overlord were more advanced versions. Jessica noted that the young man was not the only test subject for the elixir. However, of all of them, the policeman was the only one with absolute genetic compatibility. At that moment, our hero was caught in the robot's embrace, and an electric shock struck him. After a while, Purple opened his eyes. Jessica said that he had woken up just in time. Everything was ready. Jessica thanked the young man for his assistance in improving humanity and his help in the future. Our hero was bound hand and foot and placed in an experimental device. Jessica said that once the elixir was created, Sandra would be saved. Now that they were doing this, she felt she had to explain everything. The elixir, which was supposed to be humanity's greatest vaccine, had only one side effect. It caused loss of mind and a desire for blood. This was an instinctive result of searching for the right genetic combination, which they did not have. To make the elixir safe for everyone, they needed a successful sample from which to extract the full compatibility factor. Taking advantage of the side effects, a large-scale clinical trial was conducted using a small amount of the elixir mixed with a placebo. In this case, only people with the ideal genetic factor would survive. Our hero understood how this happened. Didn't they care about the human sacrifices? Jessica said that in the end, they found the perfect specimen. The sacrifices were necessary for the good of humanity. The girl added that the young man's sacrifice would restore everything to the way it was, and humanity would make great progress. In that case, she would be welcomed. A shot rang out. Sandra appeared in the secret laboratory with a weapon in her hand. The next shot destroyed the chains that held our hero captive. After the first shot, Jessica, who had been wounded in the head, fell face down. The protagonist freed himself and asked what had happened. Sandra said she would explain everything on the way. Following his partner, our hero began to understand why everyone liked Sandra so much. Purple was back in his police uniform. The audience acknowledged that Sandra's help had been invaluable. However, our hero still had a bad feeling. He remembered Jessica lying on the floor. The young people approached the elevator, which went straight to the director's office. Sandra said that they would now go up to the roof of the building through the office. It was quite high, so it would take some time. Sandra explained that as soon as they reached the top floor, Jessica suddenly attacked her. Jessica thought she might prevent her from luring Purple. Sandra added that she stole the pass while fending off Jessica's attacks. The girl added that after that, she hid in the director's office. Sandra said that in the office she found this piece of newspaper clipping. The photo was of the director of Reganry Farm. Purple said that the woman reminded him of someone. Apparently, Jessica was the director's daughter. Sandra grabbed her hand and turned away from the young man. Purple asked if she was okay. Sandra asked indignantly how Purple could agree to the experiment. They almost destroyed him. The young man replied that he had been told it was the only way to save Sandra. Purple suggested that regardless of his decision, it would have been impossible to obtain the vaccine. Sandra was glad that nothing bad had happened to the young man. The young people went up to the top floor and found themselves in the director's office. Purple said that the army had sent a helicopter to the roof. They needed to find other clues and get out of there. The girl said they needed evidence related to the elixir. The young man gathered a folder of documents and approached the main computer. It was interesting to see what information was stored there. There were documents on the table in front of the computer. What were they? These documents contained information about the main character of the game. Purple saw a photo of himself fighting monsters. Purple turned on the system. He had to enter a code to activate it. The login was password protected. The young man entered the secret word, elixir, and access was granted. The audience was surprised that someone was able to activate this computer. However, all the folders on it were protected by a special password, except for one. The unprotected folder contained a video from a surveillance camera in the director's office. The video file even had sound. The subject matter was alarming, so the young man decided to send the USB file via a communication device. Preparations were made to transfer the data via the designated channel. The file transfer was complete. Our hero requested immediate assistance. The military responded that troops would soon be at the designated location. The young man sat down in a chair and said that it was all over. Sandra, Jessica, why so many victims? The young man noted that now everything would be as it was before. The audience noted that this was a standard ending to the game, but they had a bad feeling about it. The mercenaries entered the room and led the man's friends out in police uniforms. They reported that the sample had been saved. A woman's silhouette appeared from the smoke and said that the connection could now be switched back to the external channel. The woman approached and emerged from the smoke. She was wearing a mask. It was Jessica. She reported over the radio that the elixir was ready. With the flash drive in her hand, Jessica approached the computer and said that it annoyed her. It was an ancient machine that automatically switched to the internal channel as soon as the device was connected. But she believed that this was what made the device secure. Jessica repeated that Reganry Farm's security measures were incredibly sophisticated. Jessica said that the police officer was to blame for trusting her. Purple understood what was happening in the original ending. He would have liked to experience it first. Our hero had no idea that the flash drive Jessica gave him was so dangerous. The protagonist stated that he needed to deliver the evidence himself. Purple suggested that they should be more careful with documents from now on. Our hero said that now they had everything they needed and could move forward. A helicopter appeared high in the sky. The audience noted that the military had arrived just in time. But what would happen to Sandra? After all, there was no vaccine. Our hero experienced strange feelings again. What was that? The feeling was stronger than when he met the Overlord. Could this be the final boss? A tall building nearby exploded. The epicenter was on the roof. A monster appeared next to our heroes. The young man felt even more uneasy. He knew it couldn't be that simple. As the monster approached, Purple realized it was Jessica. What had happened to her? Jessica, burning with rage, headed toward the young people. She was determined. Sandra didn't expect to see Jessica here. After all, she had shot her right in the head. How was that possible? Jessica declared that she couldn't stand stupid people. Bullets fell to the ground in front of Jessica. The audience noted that these were the same bullets. The monster said that the two had only made things more difficult for themselves. The audience speculated that Jessica had been experimenting on herself. It turned out that she wasn't a heroine, but the final boss. Jessica said that this young man's genes would belong to her. It was a very unexpected statement. Sandra told the monster to shut up and fired a magazine from her pistol at it. This had no effect on Jessica, who attacked the young people in a rage. Purple and Sandra barely managed to jump out of the way. Sandra said that Jessica was hiding behind the monster's appearance like a coward. Purple coughed and demanded that Sandra leave immediately. Our hero ran up to his partner and, protecting her, also fired a series of shots at the monster boss. The helicopter in the sky was not military, but belonged to representatives of a pharmaceutical company. There were mercenaries on board. The helicopter was protecting the monster. Our hero took aim and fired several shots from his pistol at the helicopter. The shots were successful, and the helicopter began to circle chaotically over the city. After a while, it exploded. Spectators noted that it was spectacular. Jessica said that the young man had missed his chance to surrender. The audience noted that Jessica was the female version of the Overlord. She had evolved. Jessica said she wanted to get rid of this distraction and turned her attention to Sandra. However, our hero continued to shoot at the monster, constantly damaging her. Sandra thanked him and said that her pain was subsiding, so they could fight together. Purple thought that Sandra would join the battle this time. Our hero realized that Jessica was more advanced and could transform her body better than any other Overlord. This monster could move her body unpredictably, defying the laws of physics. There was no point in aiming for her weak spot. Continuing to fire his shotgun, our hero thought that he needed something more powerful this time. However, there was nothing nearby that could be useful. Suddenly, he noticed barrels of aviation fuel and decided they could be used. Purple told Sandra to hold on for a while. He had an idea. The young man said that the golden gun had a fairly low recoil, so Sandra could fire it with one hand. Our hero handed the weapon to the girl. Sandra began firing at the Overlord at point-blank range and admitted that it was the best weapon. Purple grabbed the barrel of aviation fuel with both hands. He decided to burn the monster. He raised the barrel above his head. It seemed light to him. The young man held the barrel in front of him, hoping it wasn't empty. Our hero rolled the barrel to the edge of the roof, opened the lid, and began pouring the fuel down. The spectators were puzzled. What was he doing? How was he going to fry the Overlord? Below the building was a huge number of zombies. Purple said it would be hell on earth. Sandra stopped shooting and told Jessica to stop. Purple stood at the edge of the building, fired several shots into the air, and called to Jessica. The young man said that Jessica should hurry if she wanted to preserve his genes. The monster turned around and ran toward the young man. Purple staggered backward and began to fall. At that moment, a shot rang out near the barrel. The burning Overlord began to fall to the ground. As he fell, Purple stabbed his knife into the wall of the building and managed to hold onto it. Holding the knife with one hand, the young man fired a control shot from his pistol at the monster's head with the other. Jessica continued to fall downward. Our hero managed to climb back onto the roof of the building. He said that the Overlord had survived the fire. I wonder how he will survive the fall. The main mission was 80% complete. The hero defeated Jessica, the director of Reganry Farm. The protagonist said that everything went according to plan. Purple noted that, considering how much elixir Jessica had used, she must have genes that zombies would really like. Zombies surrounded the fallen monster. Overlord attracted their attention. Purple remembered Sandra's injury. The girl said she was fine and suggested they focus on escaping. The young people noticed that the monsters were climbing the wall to the roof of the building. There was no time left. Sandra said that they couldn't stand against all these zombies and needed to evacuate immediately. Zombies appeared on the roof from all sides. The young people pressed their backs against each other and opened continuous fire. Purple thought that when it seemed like it was all over, an even bigger wave of zombies appeared. Did they really have to defeat them all? What was their goal now? The pistol was out of bullets. It was impossible to defeat the zombies with just a shotgun. The game deliberately made them use up all their ammunition. Purple told Sandra that he had no more ammunition for his pistol, only the shotgun remained. Sandra gave the young man her last supplies and told him not to give up. He had to get out of there. Sandra put the pistol in Purple's hand to her forehead. The girl said that Jessica had offered her a deal. Jessica was surprised that the virus was slowly affecting Sandra. But since the infection wasn't stopping, Sandra didn't have enough genetic factors. Jessica said that Sandra should join them for her own good. Sandra replied that she would not allow Purple to be experimented on. Jessica stated that the child could be used for DNA exchange. Jessica added that Sandra was carrying his child and noted that she could tell him something interesting. Even with the vaccine, if Sandra ever lost her mind, she would never become fully human. Even if the child had the necessary genetic factor, as soon as she lost her mind, the child would never be born. Jessica suggested that this was why Sandra hadn't told the young man anything. Jessica suggested that Sandra join them. That way her child would survive. Besides, this experiment wouldn't destroy the officer. Jessica said that Sandra had to make the right choice. Then everyone would stay alive. Sandra told our hero that it seemed like a good idea, but she refused because she didn't trust Jessica very much. Sandra didn't regret her decision. Otherwise, Jessica would have kept them in those experimental rooms, like prisons, forever. The young people continued to destroy the zombies with a shotgun. Sandra said that she was making the right decision. She preferred that Purple live and remember her rather than become an experiment. Sandra said that this was her last wish. She didn't want Purple to see her turn into a monster. He moved his hand aside and fired a pistol at the head of the approaching zombie. Purple said that a glow appeared around Sandra. The audience assumed that the child's genes had saved Sandra. Sandra remained alive, and the young people continued to destroy the zombies with firearms. A helicopter with soldiers appeared above the building. A soldier with an automatic rifle jumped down to provide fire support. The shooting continued. Now the number of zombies on the roof began to decrease. The soldier asked our heroes if they had been bitten. Purple said that they were both fine. The soldier gave a signal, and a ladder was lowered from the helicopter. The soldier said he would cover them and told the young men to get into the helicopter. After the helicopter took off, the pilot noted that the two didn't look happy, even though they had survived. The soldier said that once she lost her mind, she would never be human again. They couldn't stop. Sandra was surprised. How did the soldier know that? She asked who he was. The girl pointed her gun and asked how the soldier even knew where to look for them. The soldier apologized and explained that he was just reminiscing about the old days. The young man took off his mask and introduced himself. His name was Leon Kim. Viewers noted that he looked like the hero of the console game Bark. Leon Kim said that he used to be a police officer, but now serves in the army. The young man added that he was investigating the case. Our hero suggested that this guy was serving in some kind of special army unit. This would explain his equipment and the helicopter. Leon Kim stated that after they contacted the drone, a decision was made to monitor their movements. Therefore, the military managed to rescue the young people in time. Purple handed the documents to the soldier and said that they contained evidence of illegal activities by the pharmaceutical company. Leon Kim looked at the documents and noted that these young people had a lot to share. But for now, they needed to rest. The soldier praised him for his brilliant work and offered to work together in the future. The main quest was completed. The hero exposed the illegal activities of the pharmaceutical company. The epilogue was unlocked. Viewers noted that the main building of the pharmaceutical company was partially destroyed. The military checked the perimeter and reported that everything was clear, and information gathering began. A man in civilian clothes said that in the end, they had failed. The man looked at the photo hanging on the wall and realized it was Jessica. The system connected and access was granted. Project Infinity. Information transmitted. The man studied the folders with files on the screen. The man in plain clothes ordered the military to continue closing off Fox City as planned. He added that one failure was enough. Purple said that the sequel would be quite interesting. The audience began to discuss the continuation of the game. Purple asked viewers to continue supporting the game Biohazard. The streamer added that he had a good time and enjoyed playing the game with the viewers. The young man promised to meet again on the next broadcast. Viewers were interested in what game Purple would play next. Purple warned that it was a sponsored stream. Thus, Biohazard came to an end. Byung-hoon said that everyone was sincerely looking forward to Purple's next broadcast because the stories were so heartwarming. Kyung-bok came out of the capsule and asked his friend if he was okay, as he looked tired. Byung-hoon replied that people's reactions were good, and there were many posts. Kyung-bok thought his friend looked like a zombie. The young people were interested in the results of the vote. Byung-hoon noted that when the content ends, many people leave. Not everyone who voted will come to watch the stream, so there will be fewer viewers. Kyung-bok agreed that everyone had originally come to watch Bark. It would be disappointing if the number of viewers decreased, even if he was mentally strong. Expectations need to be lowered before they crash due to impatience. Byung-hoon said that this is why it's time to decide on a concept. What game does Kyung-bok want to play next? Our hero asked if he really had to decide that. Byung-hoon replied that it was important. If there is a specific concept, there will be regular viewers. There are those who only play one game and become experts at it. Some focus on one genre, such as horror. There are people who don't play full games at all, preferring only online games. The channel needs to have a clear identity to get into the algorithms. Kyungbok acknowledged that there was sense in those words. Kyungbok said that even though it was for a short period, he felt what it meant to stream. Like when he was preparing for pro gaming. He thought that everything would work out if he just played well. However, that was a misconception. What matters is how much fun you have. Kyungbok said that if he enjoys the game, the viewers will enjoy it too. If the viewers enjoy it, he gets better too. Our hero was grateful for the votes, but he wants to play what he chooses. Then the streams will be fun. Kyungbok said that even if Byung-hoon disagrees with him, he can't give in because setting restrictions would change their relationship. Kyungbok noted that he wants to play games that can be played with several people. Our hero asked his friend, "Is that really such a bad idea?" Byung-hoon said that Kyungbok is indeed a good person. With such a skill, he would naturally stand out among gamers. If he was lucky, he could meet other streamers and then lure their viewers away. Kyungbok suggested skipping streaming this weekend. Byung-hoon was surprised. The young man said that there are many more viewers on weekends. Kyungbok noted that Byung-hoon should rest. Our hero suggested hiring a manager for the duration of their break. Kyungbok added that his friend looked very tired. Byung-hoon thought that he was the one who was rushing so as not to lose their current good results. Byung-hoon added that Kyungbok should be grateful to have someone like him by his side. Kyungbok said that they now had too much information and needed a manager. Byung-hoon mentioned that he had someone in mind, a very reliable person. Kyungbok asked who it could be. His friend said that even if this guy didn't know anything about streaming, he would believe their data and join the team. The young man was told to come in early the next day. He understood that this was the nature of the job, and there was nothing he could do about it. The young man didn't understand why the team administrators had to go on business trips. Would he end up having to quit? The young man was tired of this work and needed a break. The young man returned home and took the elevator to his floor. At the end of the corridor, he saw two people standing near his apartment door for some reason. What were they doing there? The young man approached the strangers and asked what they were doing there. The young people were about to call the apartment. Byung-hoon turned around and saw the owner of the apartment. He smiled and said that meeting him was harder than finding mountain ginseng. Kyungbok said that they had come to see him. The young man noted that the house was just as scary inside. Nothing had changed. The owner of the apartment asked the guests to be careful and not to litter, and to take their shoes off at the entrance. After greeting them, the landlord listened to their proposal and was surprised. Did these two really want to hire him as their manager? This was Park Joo-ho, 28, a friend of the young men and an assistant manager at a large company. Kyungbok said that they were very serious about their streams and that this was a serious undertaking. Park Joo replied that he had had enough of this advertising pitch and didn't know if the two were serious. Byung-hoon said that they would be good together. Park Joo thought that sounded nice, but in reality, management wasn't a permanent career, so it was better to decline right away. That's what Park Joo would have done if they weren't old friends. Park Joo said he wouldn't bring up the career issue yet, but asked what kind of salary they were talking about. They would discuss all the details later, of course. Byung-hoon reminded him that it wasn't a useless offer and that the salary wasn't bad. He showed the necessary information on his tablet screen. The guy noted that they had already received about 9 million from missions and donations on streams, 3 million in advertising fees, and about 1.5 million on YouTube. The number of views was steadily growing, and their capital was increasing. Kyungbok told his old friend that he was also surprised when he first saw these figures. Here, fun turns into money. Our hero added that it was intuitively clear that they had received sincere support, so he wanted to work even harder. Byung-hoon asked Park Joo if he was ready to make a decision, since he knows what a genius Kyungbok is. Kyungbok said that they needed Park Joo's help and wanted to take his old friend with him. Park Joo recalled the old days. Every time he was in trouble, these two changed his life. Byung-hoon said that Park Joo was smiling, which meant he agreed. Park Joo replied that he still needed to think it over carefully. Kyungbok pointed out that Park Joo was planning to go on vacation anyway, so maybe he should just make a decision now. Kyungbok added that if Park Joo gave it a try, he would enjoy it and realize how much fun it was. Purple told viewers on the stream that he wanted a game that had special meaning for him. He chose carefully after reviewing the survey and introductory video. Today's game would be called Mystic League. Viewers were surprised because this game was at the bottom of the poll. It would be better to choose a story-driven game. However, many viewers were eagerly awaiting the next broadcast. The previous game had a great ending. Of course, now everyone wants a different game. Viewers were surprised that there was no stream over the weekend. Purple noted that the number of viewers had decreased, which was to be expected. The protagonist said that he was also eager to start the next stream, but he didn't just rest over the weekend. A new member joined their team, a manager. Purple said that the main topic of today's stream was choosing the next game. The protagonist told viewers what he had planned for the weekend. The game will be called Mystic League. This game was released by the developers of the most popular iOS game for PC, League of Legends. It is a virtual reality sequel, so viewers can enjoy it by becoming characters themselves. 5 players on a team destroy the enemy's tower and weapons. The easiest way to win is to destroy the center of the camp and the temple in turn. If you don't make it in time, the winner is determined by personal records for destruction and assistance. The game takes place in different locations and on different maps. This game requires strategic teamwork and individual skills. Purple thought that there were many fans of story-driven games among the audience, so they might not like it. The young man said that there was a reason for choosing this game. Perhaps it was because he started with Barca. Many voted for a story-driven game. When he was in high school, he was offered to join a professional League of Legends team. The team included Tian, Jendi, and Kivon Dia, 3 well-known players. But he quit gaming and didn't join the team. Purple noted that at the time he couldn't talk about his illness or family circumstances. Now everything is fine, and a lot of time has passed. The streamer said that his family would be happy to see how much love he receives now. That's why he definitely wants to play the sequel to Lola on his streams. Purple said that this is his first time playing Mystic and encouraged everyone to play energetically. The player chose the ranked game, Valley of the Temples. The player must prove their skill in 7 battles. The player must freely support their team without sticking to a specific line during the game. The role of jungler was chosen. The main character agreed to the temple's call to become a warrior. This was a new version of the game, released 10 years later. Purple wished his teammates good luck and reminded them that he would be the jungler. The game began. Park Ju asked if it was okay to start with a ranked game right away. The controls here are different from the PC version. It's a completely different game. Byung-hoon admitted that in Mystic, you can directly become a character, and most of the previous heroes have been replaced. Byung-hoon noted that Kyung-bok had changed during that time. If Kyung-bok had been just a regular player, he wouldn't have been invited to the Pro League. He has a good sense of reading the map and knows how to control the game. Growth happens primarily after matches. That's the League of Legends method. The concept of growth in Mystic has been removed, so skills are what determine a player's level. Skills cannot be transferred through gameplay or the keyboard, so it is important to choose the right character. Our hero chose the character Yami, an ancient ninja who became a master of the art of vision. This character specializes in magical destruction. He has 5 different skills, so he seems like a good character. However, unlike on a PC, where you can apply skills, here you have to implement reincarnation yourself. In fact, this is very difficult in combat, which requires immediate reactions. Byung-hoon said that he can't even perform a basic attack because he can't use his hands during reincarnation. Since he is a killer, he is weak and extremely vulnerable if approached. Pearl is Yami, who transfers the power of a hero. The selected hero is linked to the default account avatar. The player is invited to a mystical battlefield. His allies told the player that they were all newbies, but they should have at least watched the video beforehand. Yami isn't the best choice, especially for a jungler. One of the players said that the young man ruined everything with his terrible choice. Why is he so reckless right away? Purple was surprised. Is Yami really that weak? He seemed cool in the video presentation. Purple wondered why they weren't using killer magic. Other players suggested that they could manage without Yami. Our hero thought that in Lola's day, it was the best choice for a jungler. One of the viewers suggested a mission. Win 5 games in a row with Yami. Purple thanked the viewer for the mission after a long time. He couldn't refuse such a difficult task. It wasn't his style. The mission didn't seem impossible. Why not aim for 5 wins in a row in Mystic? All the fighters were invited to the battlefield. Our hero suggested doing everything perfectly. Don't waste time. Purple prepared to carry out the tasks at hand. The young man found himself at the bottom of a ravine, surrounded by many ferocious monsters. One of the spectators said that the player was using Yami as a jungler. Even if his hands and feet weren't tied, his attacks were mediocre. That's why junglers are criticized. The monsters surrounded our hero and approached him. Purple said that they would see who would win. The spectators wondered why there were so many mobs. Purple noted that training should be fun, so he would try to act in his own style. There are a total of 25 skills, 5 attributes corresponding to each of the 5 stages. Players may hate Yami, who has to memorize everything and act on his own. Our hero decided to focus. The audience tried to understand what he was hinting at. The young man had the impression that someone was painting a picture in his head, and his senses were perceiving the movements that were taking place. It was just like when a person learns to walk and gradually gets used to running. Purple believed that he would succeed. Our hero concentrated and used his magical abilities. Even his healing power would come in handy now. Yami raised his charged hands and activated the 3rd stage of his 2 ability. The young man struck the ground with all his might, and the monsters were scattered in all directions by the shockwave. Our hero experienced indescribable feelings. The young man had also grown accustomed to his skills. Yami decided to immediately help his teammates destroy their opponents. However, the opponents were strong, and our hero's team members couldn't handle them. The player shouted that his health was at minimum, and they were in trouble. Yami appeared at the most opportune moment, as there was no help to be found. The 4th level throat attribute was activated, an endless attack. Yami told his comrade to hurry while there was still time. However, this time the opponents were fast and strong. It wasn't easy to dodge their attacks. Yami said he would deal with the opponents himself. Our hero used the 2nd level metal attribute, Iron Armor. The audience noted that Purple had seized the moment. The protagonist thought that in order to restore his chakra, he needed to activate the enemies and knights who were protecting each team's towers. The chakra restoration was successful. The confrontation could continue. Yami activated a 3rd level fire attribute, Fire Slash. Continuing the battle, our hero achieved a double kill. It was a perfect play. Yami told his colleagues that he would take care of the front and go to another line. His comrade thanked our hero for his invaluable help. The spectators noted that the main character was moving like a real ninja. Yami still hadn't become a champion. In the end, the enemy surrendered, and victory went to the protagonist's team. Purple was surprised because they didn't even retreat to their main base. After calculating the results of the battle, Purple was surprised. Had he really destroyed 33 enemies single-handedly? Our hero apologized for entertaining himself. He also wanted to give orders and participate in the team battle. Purple said they were going back to the lobby. Valley of the Temples is a ranked game 1 step closer to victory. Our hero suggested that the next match would be even more interesting. Players were being selected for the next match. The role of jungler was chosen. After a spectacular explosion, the enemy team surrendered. Victory. The white team's temple was destroyed. Victory. Purple became the leader again. The black team's temple was destroyed. Victory. Purple achieved this feat single-handedly. Our hero said that this was literally a no man's land, a vast intersection. The team continued to win, winning 4 times in a row. Byung-hoon asked what the manager had to say about this. Park Ju had heard that Kyungbok was a good player, but he didn't think he was at this level. Byung-hoon added that this guy was like he was playing a different game. He was on a completely different level. At one point, our hero hesitated, and the lead was lost. He didn't think the enemy mid would go for a gank right away. Purple realized that he was facing a serious opponent. He needed to be more careful in his actions. Our hero assumed that there was a streamer on the opposite side. Viewers noted that this was a mid versus jungler matchup. The opponent was Genome, a streamer with 700,000 subscribers, a guy who plays at the level of the gods. Genome said that he was 4th in Platinum. Can't you see that? Viewers noted that this was a Bronze versus Platinum match. Could such a strong match be possible? Genome suggested that the jungler on the white team would have to come to support. How could he plan his route? Genome said that the jungler on the white side seemed to have deliberately wanted to face him in this match. Genome hesitated for a moment. Had he made the right choice? Genome was surprised to learn that his opponent was Yami. It seemed abnormal. Even if it was an entertainment stream, trolling in an important match was definitely going too far. Why create an aggregation with such heroes in an important game? As a streamer, Genome understood that there was a limit to aggregation. The viewers suggested a new mission, 10 kills of Yami. The viewers thought that Yami wanted another official match. Genome decided to turn this entertainment show into a documentary. The chat during the stream was temporarily blocked due to inappropriate language. Purple said he had just seen the black team's jungler. The young man noticed that as soon as the game level got higher, all the players became more serious. But if you try hard, you can get the block lifted. You have to deal with your opponent quickly. The protagonist saw a new mission appear. Destroy Genome without items. The young man thanked him for the mission. Purple decided to go for the kill right away, before there was a difference in items. Our hero thought that his opponent would go for a gank. but he wasn't even on the line and his position was not visible. Purple realized that he was up against a magic archer who couldn't have any hidden abilities. However, our hero was unexpectedly attacked. Now the cards were everywhere. While in the gorge, Purple saw the silhouette of his opponent in the distance. Genome silently approached his opponent, tense and ready to attack at any moment. Genome said that Yami was dodging well. Purple thought it would be best to hide behind a building so that his opponent couldn't see him. Although Genome could predict his movements in advance, Genome said that there was nothing personal in his actions. He was only following orders. Purple said that the same applied to him and struck first. Genome predictably parried the attack and counterattacked. The audience noted that Yami's weak body had been hit. There was no way to dodge it. However, our hero stood his ground and used his first-level iron attribute, Iron Call. This was followed by a second-level wood attribute, Border Vines. Genome was deactivated and bound to a tree trunk by vines. The audience noted that Yami was a true master, as he had applied 2 seals at once. Genome broke free and said it was fun. The audience acknowledged that the level of combat between these rivals was really high. Both could dodge at the last moment. Our hero praised his opponent's skill in using skills and kiting. If this continues, he will be in trouble. Yami's skills required mana, which is restored by normal attacks or over time. On the other hand, Distorted Fate uses randomly drawn cards. These need to be replenished at the base when the deck runs out. However, shuffling can be used to replenish skills. Purple thought that his opponent was deliberately stalling for time, so he couldn't linger here. Our hero understood that, unlike him, Genome becomes stronger with each item used, so now was the most opportune moment. Yami decided that now was the time to use something else. Genome was surprised. He thought his opponent's mana was already depleted. However, he used a skill to distract him and immediately ran away. Genome thought that his opponent's skills were better than he had thought. But Yami was still useless. Genome decided that his body was warmed up, so it was time to finish off his opponent. Genome looked around and assumed that Yami was hiding in the nearby bushes. The young man prepared his cards. Genome thought that if his opponent was hiding in the bushes, his body and sound would disappear, but the sound of the bushes would give him away. Genome decided that by hiding, Yami was just recklessly wasting his restored mana. Genome was surprised that his opponent was acting so quickly, and from almost all sides. But Yami didn't have the ability to split himself. Genome summoned a monster from the bushes. The spectators were surprised. Why did this monster leave its territory? The player thought that in that brief moment, his opponent had restored his chakra thanks to the monster, and used it as a distraction. Purple activated the 5th level Fire attribute. This was not a show, but a real battle. Flames of purification burned everywhere. The mission was accomplished. Our hero thanked the spectators for their donations. Purple said that the game wasn't over yet, and that he was coming back. The young man said he would turn on the microphone and give orders. Purple said that now he didn't need to respond or report the situation, and not to be distracted by the chat. The player added that he would monitor the map and the situation, and that all members of the group should follow his orders. Our hero went on the attack and said he wanted to take down one line before Genome respawned. Purple noticed that the opponent was about to attack him from above. Gang's ability to hide his position was excellent. Our hero was also a true master of stealth, the elusive spirit. Genome noted that the white team's actions had changed dramatically, although this was to be expected. Genome decided to set a trap, but in such a way that his opponents would not notice it. Transparent stone, stone vision, the entire map. Genome warned his comrades. If they did not destroy Yami from the white team, they would lose. If they destroyed the wanted person who had committed the most crimes in a row, they could transfer the crime to their side and instantly turn the game around. Purple wondered who had placed all these stones. There were no other objects in the thicket. The young man thought it was classic, controlling objects, destruction, and escape. It was incredible. The player felt that he was facing a real trap. A sense of acute danger emanated from all sides. Purple behaved cautiously, so as not to fall into the trap by mistake or carelessness. Our hero had no doubt that the entire enemy team was there to deal with him. The protagonist was confident that he could dodge, so it was necessary to combine attacks. Some of the spectators didn't believe in Purple and urged him to run away and admit defeat. Our hero decided to gather his strength and push his opponents out of there, leaving them no chance of victory. The 4th level water element, Wave, was activated. The water element washed the opponents away in different directions. Genome called on his comrades to provide support. Our hero, with knives in his hands, prepared to repel the next attack from the black team. Genome declared that he was ready to accept the movements and actions of the perfect player. The second level earth element, basalt columns, was activated. Purple was genuinely surprised. Had the Queen of Spades card been used against him again? Genome activated his ultimate ability, Distorted Fate. He had the Joker in his hand. Genome continued to use his unique skills and applied the ability Falseness. The Black Mage thought that air might be the perfect prison and told everyone to use their ultimate abilities. Our hero just laughed in response and activated his 5th level earth element, Immense Tremor. Genome was surprised. Were his opponents really using an offensive skill on themselves? He had no health left. One hit and he would be finished. Genome couldn't believe it. Did his opponent really have such a skill? Our hero activated Yami's ultimate skill, Black Knight. The audience was surprised. Was there a problem with the broadcast? Why was the screen dark? Purple absorbed the health of enemies within the dark sphere and converted it into his own health and chakra. The condition for activation was the use of techniques from all 5 elements at level 4 or higher. Could someone really have done this in virtual reality? The audience recognized Yami as the perfect player. Gino didn't understand what was happening. The audience realized that Yami had an ultimate ability. It looked terrifying. The members of the black team died simultaneously and now have a choice: respawn at the base or surrender. The map showed that an enemy team was approaching the black base. A decision had to be made. Genome thought that a dangerous situation had arisen. If he lost, he would be ashamed in front of the team. However, it would also be disappointing to refuse to face a strong opponent. Following orders, the player entered the enemy camp. Purple said to use the teleportation item on him. Our hero said that they should ignore the enemies and focus on capturing the temple. They should also defend the temple immediately after reviving. Positioning himself on a cliff and activating pressure on the ground, the protagonist said it was time to begin and used the 1st level earth element, Stone Trap. The return location was random, but it worked. One of the opponents ended up in the stone trap. A strong threat could be felt ahead along the route. Could Genome be hiding there? Genome did indeed appear before our hero and said that he needed to think positively, which is why he had arrived so quickly. Genome attacked the opponent, and everything around the protagonist was engulfed in flames. The black team players were still not at full strength. Some of them had been stopped by our hero. Genome said that it had been a high-risk tactic from the start. The black team's temple was destroyed, and our hero emerged victorious. The 5 victories with Yami mission was complete. Purple thanked his subscribers and said that he didn't know of any games he couldn't play. Purple corrected himself. He meant that there are many games he hasn't played yet. Our hero didn't know what his rank would be, so he rejected many friend requests. Genome also sent our hero a friend request. Purple was flattered when he saw that Genome had sent him a friend request first. The player apologized first and said that during the introductory tests, he mistakenly took Yami's choice as trolling and made inappropriate comments on the air. Genome added that he would still like to play with Purple. Purple accepted the friend request. He thought that Genome seemed like a really nice person. Our hero said that players of Genome's level are always welcome. Purple greeted all the viewers who had come from Genome's stream. Our hero thought that thanks to the people who came from Genome's stream, the number of viewers exceeded 3,000. Purple suggested ending the introductory trials. Streamer Genome, Namji Huan, asked how everything went. His interlocutor replied that a friend request had come in. The interlocutor asked if Namji was really that concerned about Purple. The streamer replied that there were very few people like that. With such skills, he would definitely become popular. Namji was worried that he might be criticized for not being up to the level of the stream. But everything turned out fine. His friend advised him to approach this offer with caution. Namji was surprised. Were there really any problems? His colleague said that he had continued watching Purple's stream. The colleague added that Genome would not be the main character, but a secondary one. The trial rating was complete. Our hero became number 1. He really made it to Diamond. Purple thanked everyone for their congratulations. He suggested playing with Yami and added that it wasn't difficult. Purple said that there were now more than 2,000 of them and thanked everyone for their support. Byung-hoon, standing in front of the screen, said that now they would have to work at night. The bully swung to hit the young man. At that moment, a voice off-screen shouted, "Cut!" Park Ju said that this would definitely go to the school board. Byung-hoon admitted that it would be a real masterpiece. Finally, his first portfolio was ready. The bully saw the young people and asked who they were. The young man who had dealt with the bully said not to give him such roles anymore. The bully recognized these young people and decided it was best not to mess with them. The bully and his friends decided to run away. Do these people really think that advice on school bullying is a trivial matter? Byung-hoon said that these fools must be at home or think they can win today. Byung-hoon said that he was a master at attracting attention on the internet and would impress viewers as if by magic. They needed to make a list of media outlets they liked. Park Ju thought that in any case, if he was with these guys, he definitely wouldn't be bored. After a while, Byung-hoon opened his laptop and showed them the reaction to his video on the internet. He added that it would be a sin not to work with such content. The duel with Gino became a topic of discussion on forums. New viewers also appeared. On the laptop screen was a video of Gino's defeat today. Almost 500,000 views. Park Ju admitted that thanks to this recording, the number of subscribers had skyrocketed and would soon reach 170,000. The young man noted that they had an important topic to discuss. They had received an official letter from Gino's team. They wanted to meet in person. Park Ju said that even an apology video had been uploaded. They not only wanted to apologize, but also to become friends, and they were planning to do a joint stream. Byung-hoon said that long-lasting streamers always have one good skill: a keen eye. They recognized Kyungbok's genius. A joint stream means that they want to collaborate. Park Ju added that they want to invite Byung-hoon as a guest to discuss gaming content. Colleagues invite masters with good skills. It will be martial arts training from a sword master. The guest increases his popularity, and Genome demonstrates his physical skills. Both come out ahead. Park Ju noted that this time it will be the other way around. Genome has decided to become a master. He wants to train Kyungbok at Gunner Ground. Kyungbok asked, "Will Genome be streaming, and he will be the student?" Byung-hoon suggested that Genome had realized something. He understood that he would not be able to reproduce the game. The young men decided that in any case, there was no reason to refuse a joint stream with someone like Genome. The streamer greeted his viewers again. The young man hadn't even started yet, and there were already almost 3,000 people watching. Purple said he wanted to try a new game. The hero happily informed his viewers that they had a joint stream planned with Genome in Gunner Ground. Purple said that, considering the fact that he knew nothing about the game, it would be inappropriate to hold a joint event, so he wanted to practice a little first. In Gunner Ground, you have to be the last survivor in your team among 100 players. It's a survival game. The game began with all participants falling from the sky. Some shouted that they had missed training and didn't know what to do next. Our hero looked around and saw that many players had opened their parachutes. He continued his free fall. Purple didn't waste any time and tried to get his bearings to determine where the warehouse was. Our hero found a landing spot and, gathering his group, said he was heading for the target. At the same time, the young man began to increase his speed of descent. The spectators were puzzled. Why hadn't this guy opened his parachute yet? At the last moment, Purple opened his parachute and was one of the first to prepare for landing. Our hero landed at the drop point. The audience noted that it was perfect. Timing is everything in this game. Purple thought that he didn't even have a basic weapon. Would he really have to fight with his bare hands? The young man said he was going to continue on his route. Our hero sensed the source of a sweet aroma. The warehouse behind him looked particularly attractive. Spectators noted that it was indeed a military warehouse. It was difficult to find, but Purple did not disappoint. After scanning the surrounding area, the young man determined that there might be about 3 people there. But why weren't they fighting each other? The protagonist found himself in the crosshairs. The viewers were surprised. Was this an ambush? They were using a military warehouse as bait. It was ridiculous. The opponent with the pistol jumped out of the container where he was hiding and couldn't understand where the man had gone. Purple was very close, literally at his feet. Our hero disarmed his opponent and took his weapon. However, another enemy appeared nearby. The villain took aim and fired, but our hero managed to dodge the shot. The bullet hit the unarmed enemy who was killed. Purple managed to hide behind his body. Our hero returned fire. The enemy ambush was too small for a whale as large as Purple. The protagonist thought that his opponents had temporarily formed a team. The young man noticed that he was out of ammunition. With an axe in his hands, the enemy rushed at the protagonist and said that he would destroy him now. Purple dodged and counterattacked. He said that if this guy ran away, he could definitely stay alive. Our hero's blow knocked his opponent unconscious. The young man thought that he couldn't kill his opponent with his bare hands. In that case, he took the gun and decided to see if his opponent could withstand a blow from this weapon. His opponent felt a powerful blow to the head from the gun. Our hero now had a weapon with a sniper scope in his hands, an assault rifle with a quick-release magazine. Viewers noted that Purple now had a full set of equipment. Our hero assumed that everything was over in other places as well. The protagonist was offered a mission in which he would receive a donation for each opponent he destroyed. Purple noted that there were already 76 survivors, so they needed to collect money quickly. Kyungbok said that he receives prizes, so if you die by his hand, you can consider yourself lucky. A man with a shotgun watched his target from the window of a neighboring building. He said that sniping was his calling. Everything was going according to plan in this round, and he was also lucky with items. The man with the shotgun saw another victim through his sniper scope. His opponent was killed by someone else. The man with the shotgun thought that this assault rifle was meant for close combat. Perhaps there was someone else in the same building. Another enemy was shot in the head. The man with the shotgun was furious. Where was his rival shooting from? The sniper assumed that his opponent was shooting from the other side of the field. But how could anyone fire an assault rifle from such a long distance? The man with the shotgun tried to find the other sniper with his binoculars. He realized that his opponent must be in hiding. The man with the shotgun saw his opponent, who was aiming directly at him at that moment. It was Purple. The man with the shotgun was shot in the head and killed. Purple had no doubt that everything would be fine. Our hero thought that when you have to check every building one by one to find your opponent, you can end up in the most visible spot in the building. Our hero assumed that something was different in this game compared to Bark. Could it be because of the ballistics? The audience said that when shooting from a long distance, you need to aim a little higher because bullets fly in a parabolic trajectory. You also need to take the wind direction into account. The protagonist decided to try to seize the moment. Purple took aim and held his breath to fire. Due to the high speed of the car, the shot will be late. You have to shoot ahead of it. You need to be able to predict the moment of the bullet's approach and the position of the car. Our hero's shot knocked his opponent unconscious. Purple was satisfied. Our hero felt uncomfortable with the discrepancy between his expectations and reality. But he was not the only one with this feeling. Kyungbok thought that there really are people who boost their self-esteem at the expense of others. However, every game has its own rules and conditions. It would be strange not to notice this. One particularly annoying spectator kept asking provocative questions. Kyungbok even considered banning him. The manager removed the spectator. Kyungbok thought, finally Park Ju is doing his job. He's really good at his role. He approached the unconscious driver and said that this guy had apparently had too much to drink. At that moment, the survival rate was below 60%. Due to the electric field, the survival zone had shrunk. Once the number of survivors dropped to 10, each zone would shrink. Since the source of electricity is in the center of the city, this will be the final survival zone. Purple decided to set off before other people arrived. The car lurched forward and began to accelerate rapidly. At the checkpoint, the rivals opened fire with the intent to kill. However, the car flew through the air and passed the checkpoint. During the flight, the trunk lid of the car opened, and Purple appeared with a grenade in his hand. The grenade exploded inside the car after our hero successfully jumped out of the flying vehicle. During the battle, Purple did not forget to thank the viewers for their donations. Our hero was sorry, but he could no longer retrieve what had burned in the car. The viewers agreed that it was perfect action. Purple, with an automatic weapon in his hand, decided to enter the city center. 47 people remained alive. The ring began to narrow. The ring narrowed, but there were few people left in the zone. The protagonist thought that to survive was to win. Such a strategy was entirely justified. Our hero was curious whether the destruction caused by the electric field would count. 36 people remained alive. The ring continued to narrow. Standing on the roof of the building, the young man thought that by destroying people, he could narrow the circle and thus trap the remaining survivors outside the zone. Using the electric field to his advantage, the protagonist destroyed a few more opponents, narrowing the field. Purple was surprised to see that the survivors were running outside the zone for some reason. What happened? One of the spectators said that these players were more afraid of Purple than the electric field. Purple told them not to run and started shooting them in the back. Why is he doing this, since they've already surrendered? The protagonist stated that no one is spared in battle. The rules of the game are, if a player does not destroy, they will be destroyed. The young man said that there was no one left in the city center. However, he was wrong. One opponent was hiding behind a cart. Purple took aim and shot at the man. The bullet flew past, and the masked opponent jumped out and ran in the opposite direction. The spectators assumed that this player was scared, but the electric field would not let him escape. While running, a grenade fell out of his bag and exploded. The ring continued to narrow. Purple hoped that the opponent who had been killed by the grenade would be counted as a kill. After assessing the situation, our hero was convinced that no one was left in the city center. Now he had to wait for those who were being driven by the electric field. The ring continued to narrow, and only 8 survivors remained. After another explosion caused by a collision between a motorcycle and a car, only 1 survivor remained. Watching the flames on the road, The young man said that it wasn't worth setting off fireworks in his honor. His personal mission was complete. Purple said that the sold game was complete and that today had been fun. The young man said goodbye to the viewers until the next stream. Genome thanked Purple for the raid. Thanks to this collaboration, the number of viewers increased by more than 2,000. The protagonist said he wanted to make an announcement. There would soon be a joint stream called Anatomy of a Master. Kyungbok said that he didn't want to feel out of place on the stream, so he needed to practice a little. Genome was surprised. Is this really practice? Purple is crushing everyone there. Park Ju told Kyungbok not to make excuses, as he had promised. He had originally suggested meeting at a cafe to discuss it. Byung-hoon said that this was the most difficult task he had faced in all his years of editing. Byung-hoon added that there was too much material, but he felt sorry to cut anything out. He spent the whole night thinking about it. Park Ju pointed out that because of this, Byung-hoon had once again broken his daily routine. Byung-hoon said that the timing of publication was key to success. Park Ju had to admit that the response had been excellent this time. They even made it to 4th place in the trends. Byung-hoon pointed at Kyungbok and said that because of this genius, they had to work through the night. Park Ju remarked that being a genius isn't enough. Byung-hoon said that Kyungbok becomes a legend in every game. Park Ju pointed out that admiration can easily turn into envy. We mustn't forget about the comments. Kyungbok remembered those harsh comments and said he hadn't forgotten. Park Ju added that there would be even more comments like that. It was inevitable. The group's manager said that Kyungbok should become a friendly genius. Park Ju agreed that the Purple channel is growing rapidly, but viewers are not yet attached to it. Now is the time to build a fan base and strengthen the sense of belonging to the community. The manager added that they plan to activate subscription and emoji features to achieve this. It is also necessary to connect an affiliate program. The requirements have been met. All that remains is to submit an application. Byung-hoon said that then they could start advertising and get a steady income. Park Ju agreed. Kyungbok said that this could ruin the atmosphere of the stream. Byung-hoon noted that the benefits of subscription are much more important, and most people support connecting the partnership. For example, subscribers see their subscription duration and exclusive emojis that set them apart from others. If a message stands out in the chat, it's easier to notice, so the viewer feels closer to the streamer. This will strengthen the community. Kyungbok said that in this case, viewers will want more attention from the streamer. If it brings you closer to your viewers, it's worth a try. Park Ju promised to find out how much it would cost to order emojis. The manager said that Kyungbok had not yet registered the business. Kyungbok wondered why this was necessary if he was just streaming. Park Ju told Kyungbok to look at the channel's growth and income. Even coffee for meetings needs to be recorded as an expense to optimize taxes. His friends agreed that Park Ju was very smart when it came to finances. Park Ju said that if Kyungbok wanted to hire him and Byung-hoon, registering the business was mandatory. They weren't going to work for an unregistered company. His colleagues were surprised. Had they really been working illegally all this time? Park Ju added that he was only willing to join as a manager under official conditions. Byung-hoon noted that in that case, they would need to get health insurance immediately. Park Ju said he would prepare the documents, and Kyungbok would choose a name for the company. Kyungbok said he would choose the name Team Perfect. Byung-hoon said that it sounded great, and the manager agreed. Kyungbok added that he was counting on the support of his friends. Byung-hoon said that the partnership should be celebrated with big content, a joint stream with Jenjuro. However, Jen has a strong fan base and many haters, which is a cause for concern. Byung-hoon also noted that stream snipers would not leave Kyungbok alone and would hunt him down. Kyungbok replied that in Battle Royale, you have to destroy everyone. Park Ju said that they are currently building their image, and he is worried that even the perfect image can be destroyed. Kyungbok noted that he wants to practice a little before the stream. He has an idea and wants to try something. In the next stream, Purple greeted the viewers and announced that in honor of the launch of the partnership, they would hold a mini event for Perfect Play subscribers with a prize pool. A legendary battle against the main character will be organized. You have to avoid Purple's wrath for as long as possible. The one who lasts the longest will receive a prize. But what if someone manages to defeat Purple? In that case, the player will receive a large prize and fame. Those who play against Purple will experience the perfect taste of defeat and won't miss the chance to earn $1 million. The streamer greeted the audience as usual. The young man read the comments and thanked everyone. He did not expect such a response. Even Jen signed up for a monthly subscription. Today, as promised, audience participation is planned. The roulette wheel is in the manager's hands. Purple prayed for luck. The main draw is complete. 49 participants have been selected. Purple said that codes can be used to enter the training room. The first event with viewers begins. As before, it all started with a free fall to the ground. Some participants immediately used their parachutes. Some decided to follow Purple, considering it an excellent choice. Someone shouted for him to fight him first. Our hero saw the appeal of audience participation. One of the players flew close enough to the main character. Purple was surprised. Was he really eager to die first? His opponent declared that his death was nothing compared to what he could take with him, including Purple. Our hero grabbed his opponent by the arms and twisted him. The protagonist said that hugs were too embarrassing for him, so he would just shake his opponent's hand. The opponent was surprised. Why was Purple so strong? Our hero punched him, and the opponent was knocked out. Purple wondered if this punch counted as a headshot. Although, in any case, the damage was to the head. Continuing to descend on his parachute, Purple told his opponent that it didn't count as a kill, but he was grateful for his participation anyway. Our hero landed first, and looking up saw that there were a lot of opponents this time. Purple declared that he would not disappoint his guests and would greet them properly. The protagonist decided to raise the stakes. Even before the start, he had access to a rare weapon. The young man opened fire with his machine gun and said that those who were afraid and opened their parachutes too early would be the first to die today. They could only be pitied. Purple declared that the starting prize should go to the one who dies beautifully in this battle. After emptying his magazines, the player decided to go for more ammunition and moved away from the line of fire. However, the ammunition box did not contain any rounds of the required caliber. Purple went up one floor and found many more boxes of ammunition. However, our hero was not alone in this room. It was a complete surprise. The young man thought that his positive aura had prevented him from noticing his opponent. Purple caught up with his opponent in a few jumps, and using hand-to-hand combat techniques, disarmed him. Purple thanked this player for participating and took him out of the game. In the defeated player's bag, our hero found a magazine with ammunition and a flash drive, a generous gift. The young man also received a huge, heavy frying pan. Our hero declared that this battle would be legendary. One of the participants hid in the room and, looking through a spyglass, decided that it would be safer to stay in hiding. She had no intention of getting involved. The girl saw everything Purple was doing. He was destroying one participant after another, so no one could stand up to him. One of the players pulled the pin out of a grenade and threw the explosive device into the room where Purple was. The protagonist didn't lose his cool and immediately broke the window and jumped out. Once outside the building, Purple opened fire on the moving targets outside. Since our hero had obtained an additional supply of ammunition, he fired continuously in all directions. The girl watching the main character from her hiding place realized that he was coming straight for her. What should she do? After all, meeting Purple meant the end for her. Our hero entered the room and, pointing his machine gun at the girl, was surprised. Was she really unarmed? The girl was surprised. How did Purple find her since she was hiding so well? Our hero greeted her and said that if he killed her, the audience would call him a war criminal. At that moment, the protagonist was caught in the crosshairs of a sniper who was positioned nearby. A shot rang out. He looked back and saw that he was in the crosshairs, with bullets already flying toward his head. The young man didn't lose his cool and held up the frying pan he had received. The attack was repelled. The girl was surprised. Had this guy really protected her with a frying pan? Purple thanked her for participating in the tournament. Purple said that he had already taken the first skill in the corridor. Our hero repelled the attack of another candidate. It was another headshot. The sniper had no chance of winning the confrontation with him. Instead of a prize, Purple gave the sniper some kind words. He noted that a frying pan is a weapon for all occasions. The young man told the audience that this girl had helped him locate the sniper by drawing fire onto herself. Our hero said that the girl was the last survivor in the school, so he was ready to grant her one wish. The girl was not shy, and asked Purple to give her a headshot with his fist. The protagonist replied that his conscience would not allow him to kill an unarmed girl. Instead, he promised to let her live so she could try to win the survival prize. The girl categorically refused. She didn't want the prize. Someone in the audience suggested that she was crazy. The girl with the nickname Perfect Archer lunged at the young man. The guy reacted lightning fast and delivered a headshot with his fist. The crazy woman was knocked out. Of the 100 people, 59 remained alive. The circle began to narrow. The protagonist decided to leave the rest at the mercy of the electric field and head for the safe zone. In the square in front of the school, our hero discovered school buses. Purple decided he was lucky, although this was not surprising since there was a school nearby. Our hero sat down behind the wheel and thought that the game was turning into Armageddon. The young man announced that the next stop would be Uptown Station. Byung-hoon, as always, was sitting at his computer monitor. He was extremely happy because he had accumulated a lot of video content. Park Ju noted that in that case, his colleague would have a lot of work to do and should take care of his physical condition, stick to his daily routine, and brush his teeth on time. The command "Holy Cow" appeared on the screen. They worked together seamlessly and were all armed with automatic weapons. This team was the winner of the Korean Gunner Ground League. Park Ju said that the student category would be very interesting. Byung-hoon acknowledged that they had excellent snipers and high teamwork. Manager Park Ju was curious about Purple's chances against such opponents. Byung-hoon thought again that he needed an assistant, because the video content was growing like crazy. Purple understood that the circle was closing in on them. Purple slowed down the bus a little. He felt that something was wrong, that there was some kind of danger ahead. Could it be that someone had set up an ambush? The Holy Cow team laid spikes on the road to prevent the bus from moving forward. Our hero took this into account and said that the seatbelts were their lifeline. The bus sped toward the spikes at high speed. The young man slammed on the brakes and turned the bus around 90 degrees. At the same time, he threw a grenade without the pin out of the window. The grenade fell onto the road near the spikes and exploded. The bus was thrown into the air by the acceleration, and the blast wave from the grenade flipped over and flew over the spikes. It looked like a scene from Tokyo Drift. The bus landed on 4 wheels on the road on the other side of the spikes. Our hero pressed the gas pedal, and the bus took off. His rivals immediately jumped into their SUVs and gave chase. Purple noted that his opponents had excellent movement and coordinated teamwork. They looked like experienced players. The Holy Cow SUVs overtook the bus, and turning 180 degrees, ended up in front of it. Purple fired continuously from his automatic weapon, preventing his opponents from doing anything. One of the opponents' incendiary mixture ignited, and all the liquid spilled onto the road. Spectators noted that it looked crazy in real life. One of the opponents shouted from the SUV that he was a die-hard fan of Mr. Purple. The young man took out a handheld grenade launcher and said he had a surprise for Mr. Purple. Our hero was surprised. Wasn't that too much love for one person? Purple understood that if the grenade hit its target, even a school bus wouldn't survive. Purple took everything into account: the position of the cars, the direction and speed of the wind, the position of his rival with the grenade launcher, and the direction of the site. Our hero declared that he had analyzed and taken everything into account, turned sharply, and opened fire on the front and rear windows of the bus. His opponent pulled the trigger, and the shell flew out of the weapon. Everything was calculated down to the smallest detail. The shell flew through the entire bus and exited through the rear, paralyzing the opponent's SUV. There was an explosion. The shooter couldn't see anything because of the smoke. The exploding SUV came to a sudden stop at the edge of the cliff, right on the side of the road. The driver was thrown out of the car and fell down. The injured rival screamed loudly, but his fate was sealed. Purple smiled and reminded everyone that seatbelts should be used for their intended purpose, as a lifeline. Getting out of the bus, he looked at his rival and was surprised that he had been thrown so far. Our hero thanked everyone for participating and said that it was unforgettable. Purple looked into the back of the SUV and found a backpack. He was curious to see what supplies were inside. There was also an extra bag on the seat of the car. Our hero decided that the game was getting much more interesting. Another sniper was hiding on the roof of the building, working with an assistant. All that was left to do was wait. Lego, with binoculars in his hands, was worried whether Purple would be able to handle those 4 opponents. None of them even thought that Purple would appear out of the sky. Our hero descended directly onto his opponents, using a parachute. He had a grenade launcher in his hands, which he fired. This destroyed 2 more opponents. Our hero descended on his parachute to the already defeated sniper and his assistant. Purple said that sinister energy had gathered here, so it was not difficult to determine the location. The protagonist mentally thanked the Holy Cow group for the bag that was now in his hands. Our hero got the rifle and thanked the player for their help. At that moment, Purple came under fire and had to find cover. The young man hid behind a corner of the wall. How many snipers were there? As soon as the hero was spotted, he felt threatened from all sides. All the players present, of course, wanted to win $1 million, constantly changing his position to avoid being hit by a sniper's bullet. The young man thought that the stream snipers were watching him. This was his first full-fledged sniper battle. He wanted to learn a few tricks. He understood that the main thing was to shoot first. Moving from place to place and firing his rifle continuously, he looked like he was shooting chaotically. Was he just scared of his opponents? However, The chaotic shooting was only at first glance. Purple destroyed every sniper with a single shot. Spectators noted that this player was breaking all the established rules of the game. Given the complex ballistic calculations, it seemed impossible. Our hero noticed that all the ominous sounds had disappeared from the roof. Had his opponents changed positions? The protagonist crouched down, held his breath, and listened. He heard the sound of a pin being pulled and realized that a grenade was about to fly in. Purple jumped out from around the corner with a frying pan in his hands. The grenade was indeed in flight. Purple deflected the grenade with the frying pan, and it flew back toward the enemy. They had no time to run or hide. The audience noted that it was like a tennis serve, a new test for the grenade smash challenge. Purple said that everything should work out. The main thing was to stay calm. After dealing with those nearby, our hero left the building. The streets were empty. Had they decided to play hide and seek with them? Purple declared that if no one wanted to come out and fight him, he would have to find them himself. The main character began searching for his hidden opponents and shooting them. In this game, it was inevitable. Purple suggested that there was one more player left in Uptown. The young man said that he had counted how many people were there when they landed and noted how many he had already destroyed. Purple chose the right location and started climbing the steps. His opponent didn't even stick his head out to reveal his location. He waited for the main character to climb up. The protagonist declared that he would not keep him waiting, gathered his strength, and ran up the steps. His opponent did not expect this from Purple, and our hero caught him off guard. The opponent opened fire with his pistol at point-blank range. However, our hero did not lose his composure and grabbed the frying pan. The game, almost like tennis, continued. The bullets changed trajectory by 180 degrees and hit the enemy. The enemy was destroyed, and Purple said it was just luck. The ring began to narrow again. The protagonist noted that there were no more opponents left. Our hero said that the ending was kind of boring. He wanted a worthy opponent, but he was unlucky. Purple pulled the pin out of the grenade and threw it forward. The young man said that such tournaments would be held in different games, and the prize fund would increase. This tournament was attended by 99 players and 5,000 spectators. Purple said goodbye to the audience until the next broadcast, standing on a frying pan, hovering in the air. The Holy Cow team, which lost to our hero, admitted that this guy was a genius. They were still reeling from the shock. Coach Mosh approached the players and praised them for watching demo videos even on the weekend. But who were they watching so closely? The coach was surprised to learn that they were watching a streamer named Perfect Play. How could professionals learn from a streamer? The coach became curious and asked to play the video again to show his students the difference between a professional and an amateur. However, what Coach Mosh saw really blew his mind. He asked what the guy's username was. One of the students said his name was Purple, and he'd only been playing in this mode for 2 days. Coach Mosh said that his blood was boiling. If the whole team was there, they would play a ranked game right then and there. The players were disappointed. It was their day off. The coach asked if they weren't inspired by watching such an excellent game. One of the players said that they had just given it their all. As he sent the players into the capsules, the coach said that their uniforms weren't just for show. They had to behave like true kings of esports. Instructor Mosh thought that only one person in his life had ever played at that level. Purple thought that today had been fun. Thanks to the fans, preparations for the joint stream were complete. Byung-hoon praised Mad Gunner's actions. Thanks to his teasers, they had gained 240,000 subscribers. It was no wonder he had been chosen as an assistant. Byung-hoon added that this man had once taught him how to edit games. Together they celebrated reaching 200,000 subscribers. Kyung-bok acknowledged that thanks to Byung-hoon's assistant, their channel had grown significantly. It was amazing. Byung-hoon said that they had quickly edited the video, and he even had time to sleep. Park-ju noted that this was also a good result. Kyung-bok said that he felt great and was looking forward to the upcoming joint stream. The streamer Anatomy of a Master started the broadcast and greeted the viewers. He said that he hadn't worn a shirt in a long time. Usually the game gets messy, but when guests come, you have to make an impression. The streamer introduced a new god in the world of streaming. Perfect Play. Our hero greeted the viewers. Anatomy of a Master and Perfect Play thanked each other for meeting on the Genome Show. The streamer briefly told the audience about our hero. He is the first person in the world to complete the hidden true ending of Biohazard and become a representative of the game's developers. Purple saved a hero whom the community had already buried due to the game's complex mechanics. The host noted that guests are usually shy when introducing themselves, but Purple was calm because only facts were said about him, without exaggeration. The host asked what rating Purple received during training and when he first used the capsule. The young man replied that he had slowed down a little the first time, but came in first place the second time. The host was surprised. "First place in the country," Purple replied. "First place in the world." The streamer Anatomy of a Master exclaimed that he had invited a master of masters and rejoiced. He said they were going to the operating room, where he would teach Purple his skills and perform an autopsy. The host added that he would now try out this player. Anatomy of a Master changed his image, donning a black suit and mask, explaining that since the game would be a duo, they had to dress alike. Purple also donned a black suit and mask. Anatomy of a Master said that today was a day when any crime was permitted. The streamers, along with other players, quickly began to descend to the ground, just like last time. Our hero felt that the air had become very stuffy. Was it because it was a ranked match? The young people landed safely on their parachutes. In front of them was a map of Kunas. "Anatomy of a Master?" asked Purple, since he was only in Liange. Anatomy of a Master was surprised that Purple went there right away as soon as they agreed to stream together. Our hero replied that he was worried he wouldn't be able to keep up with his partner. Purple noted that the map was half the size of Liange, and all the loot spots were hidden, so they would have to walk around. The map was small, so the main focus was on combat. Anatomy of a Master stopped and said that he had received a report from his manager. The young man looked at the information in the chat. The host asked if Purple was bothered by the snipers following him. Purple thought that Genome's stream snipers were more malicious than he had thought, but he was more concerned about something else. If the snipers got them first, the game would end quickly, and he wouldn't have time to learn anything. Genome said that in that case, they would go into navigation mode. Purple asked him to show him where the best loot was. At the foot of the mountains, in the middle of the forest, there was a maze. The young people stopped at the walls of the maze and checked their weapons. Purple noted that the navigation was accurate and asked if they should start a conversation with their opponents. Purple peeked out from behind cover, and one opponent was immediately headshot with a single shot. The spectators noted that Purple had fired from a long distance with a pistol without even looking at his opponent. Genome asked why Purple had fired, since he wanted to loot. Our hero replied that everything was going according to plan. Now they had 2 bags of loot. One of the strategic loot spots was the central temple. The heroes found themselves at its threshold. Genome got hold of an assault rifle and a double-barreled shotgun. One of the spectators suggested a new mission. For each kill with the shotgun, there would be a bonus. Purple told his colleague that this spectator always came up with missions and asked Genome if he could take the shotgun. Genome replied that the shotgun was difficult to use because of the recoil, which was why he had taken it. Purple noted that he had planned to use the double-barreled shotgun himself, but believed that it would be ineffective for Genome due to its small magazine and inability to anticipate threats. The protagonists believed that even without a mission, the shotgun would be useful for improving their skills. The main characters rushed forward, and Purple noticed that the enemy team was approaching. Genome was surprised. He couldn't hear anything. Purple said he would go first. Genome asked if they were making too much noise. 2 armed opponents appeared in front of Genome, one of whom immediately opened fire with a pistol. However, Purple was faster. His shot rang out first, and his opponent was hit in the head. The hero had another headshot to his credit. Genome thought that Purple only had 2 shots, so he was perfect for hunting 2 people. Purple admitted that shooting a shotgun with one hand was difficult. Genome asked the viewers if he could just be a navigator, since Purple was doing a good job of taking out his opponents. Our hero replied that he still had a lot to learn. Genome decided to check the pockets of his defeated opponents and start hunting stream snipers. The host said that if they were done looting, it was time to start fighting. And now it was time to really fear the stream snipers. Genome was surprised to see that Purple had already shot the snipers, and noted that they also needed to hurry up. Purple replied that he couldn't do otherwise. He didn't want to lose his winnings and donations. The 2 rivals, moving through the maze, decided to leave, but on the way they came across a bulletproof helmet. One of them said to get the car ready while he brought the gift. The gift turned out to be the bulletproof helmet. However, they couldn't take the helmet because Purple was nearby with a shotgun. It seemed that the helmet was a decoy. The rival placed the helmet and vest at the hero's feet and said that it was a great honor to meet Purple. These gifts were a token of respect. The player said that he was a huge fan of Purple and asked if he could be spared. The protagonist replied that in that case, of course, he would spare the man, because fans must be respected. The opponent jumped to his feet and ran away, contacting his colleague along the way and telling him to return, as their target was here. Purple turned around and aimed his shotgun at his fleeing opponent. Our hero noted that in that case, he had also lied. A shot rang out, and Purple scored another headshot. His opponent fell, and his colleague on the internal communication system realized that Purple had made another accurate shot. Our hero said that if this player was his fan, he could continue watching the broadcast. Janome informed his colleague via internal communication that they had gotten the car as a sign of respect. Genome showed off the pickup truck and noted that the vehicle could move silently, albeit slowly. Purple threw Genome a helmet and said it was also a reward. Genome noted that they had 5 kills in a row and cool armor. He said he wouldn't wear the armor. He wanted everyone to see his costume. Genome also refused to wear a helmet, as it would be better if the team members wore the same clothes. After thinking about it for a moment, Genome decided to put on the armor vest after all. The protagonist thought that playing alone was fun, but playing together was much cooler, so he agreed to the joint stream. The partners got into the car, and Purple said that he would drive the pickup truck, while Genome would act as navigator and give directions. Genome explained that the training center was not far from the looting zone, so he was worried about stream snipers. Purple agreed that it would be better to take care of this quickly. Our hero thought that even considering their ranks, about 8 players were particularly hostile, mainly near the training center. The young man thought that if they slowed down, they would have a better chance of surviving. So after looting, they would start to annoy them. Purple couldn't let such a fun stream be ruined. Our hero noticed that their car was being followed. Genome said it wasn't a player. They were being followed by a well-known item, Kunas, a truck with loot. This is a truck that stops when it takes a certain amount of damage and spits out boxes of supplies. Genome added that this truck is durable and fast, so you need to time your attack perfectly. However, if they mess up, they won't have enough grenades. Purple suggested that in that case, they should stop the truck first. However, there is a significant difference in speed between them. If the truck overtakes them, it will be difficult to catch up. When the vehicles were side by side, he told Genome to hold on tight and threw the grenade at the truck's wheels. The truck exploded and overturned. The young people stopped and got out of the pickup truck. Boxes of weapons lay near the truck. One of the spectators said he saw a gift box that made his heart flutter. The mission continued, and the protagonist appeared with a sawed-off shotgun as a backup weapon. Purple said they needed to take all the weapons they could carry. Genome said he would also take something for himself. After Genome checked all the boxes, he found a large caliber machine gun. Armed to the teeth, the young people decided that they could now head to the training center. Our hero's pickup truck pulled up to the training center. Purple wondered if their opponents had finished looting. He assumed that those guys had just had a skirmish. Perhaps they decided to flee to avoid encountering the master. The protagonist felt a slight sense of foreboding. So they weren't stream snipers. He couldn't just let these opponents get away. Purple continued to drive the car. Genome positioned himself in the back and opened fire with his large caliber machine gun. Genome destroyed everything he saw around him. No one got away alive. The enemy's equipment was also damaged. Genome didn't stop shooting, saying that he was congratulating everyone on the upcoming holidays. Genome was surprised by the accuracy of his shots, as he wasn't even aiming. The shooter admitted that the weapon was equipped with a self-guided sight. Genome told the audience that